When Qingshi and I were reborn together, in our past life, he personally brought me home from the orphanage, and I became his wife. We loved each other dearly and grew old together. In this life, when the Wen parents beckoned me forward just as they had before, the young Wen Qingshi stopped them. Mom, Dad, I don't want her anymore. I want this girl to be my sister. He took the hand of the girl beside me, the Wei family's adopted daughter who died young in our past life, and looked at me with ice-cold eyes. You stole Lin Long's life and caused her tragic death. In this life, it's your turn to taste the hell she went through. In that instant, I understood everything. So this time, he wanted to be the knight in shining armor, the dragon slayer rescuing the princess. Will you come with me? I looked at Lady Wei standing before me, then my gaze shifted to the resolute, retreating figure of the person I had spent decades with, leading the girl away. I nodded. Fair enough. In this lifetime, I think I want to live differently this time. 1. As I stepped out of the orphanage, the Wens are still here. At the sight of me, Wen Qingshi immediately pushed the girl into the car, then turned to me and snarled, Wen Mingzhu, even if you get down on your knees and beg me, I won't take you with me. The Wen family doesn't want you. A thief like you belongs with that pack of wolves, the Wei family. He shoved me aside and slammed the car door shut. I stumbled, struggling to keep my balance. The Wen family's motorcade had already sped away. The dust stirred up by the exhaust fumes was so thick that I could barely keep my eyes open. A black Maybach pulled to a stop right in front of me. The car window rolled down, revealing Mrs. Wei's icy expression. Want to go to the Wens? I shook my head. The Wei family is quite respectable. Lady Wei paused for a moment, then gave me a cool glance. What is your name? I answered softly, Mingzhu. From now on, your name is Wei Mingzhu. She was brief, but I understood her perfectly. I nimbly got into the car and said obediently, yes, Mom. Madame Wei raised an eyebrow but said nothing, leaning back in her seat to rest her eyes. I took the hint and fell silent. The car pulled into the Wei family villa. I followed Mrs. Wei inside. I watched her set her bag down, then casually look up as if speaking to someone. Wei Yan, this is your new sister, Wei Mingzhu. I froze for a moment. Instinctively, I looked up. My gaze met that of a boy leaning against the second-floor atrium railing. His face was even more handsome than Wen Qingshi's, almost unnervingly delicate. I had no idea how long he had been watching from there. I was taken aback. So this is what Wei Yan from the Wei family looks like, in my past life. Not long after I was adopted into the Wen family, Wei Yan was sent abroad by his family. By the time I saw Wei Yan again, many years had passed. He had already taken over the Wei family by then, but his face was marred. With that fearsome visage and his iron-fisted methods, the business world had nicknamed him Wei the Demon King. My eyes crinkled into a smile as I greeted him, brother. But Wei Yan acted as if he hadn't heard, still leaning on the railing, his expression aloof and indifferent. Don't mind him, he's not much of a talker. Mrs. Wei called for the nanny to show me around, then left. Just as I was following the nanny and about to step out the main door, as if compelled by some unseen force, I turned my head and met the boy's gaze. His eyes were pools of deathly stillness. My heart skipped a beat. Before the smile could even form, Wei Yan was the first to look away, turning and entering the room. 2. It's been over a month since I was brought to the Wei household. I haven't seen Mrs. Wei since that first day at the orphanage. Wei Yan, on the other hand, is someone I occasionally run into at the dinner table. Every time, I would sweetly call out Big Brother, but he never gave me a response. But I didn't pay it any mind, because I was incredibly busy. Although Lady Wei didn't appear, she had still packed my schedule with lessons, etiquette lessons, dance classes, horseback riding. And to top it off, it was summer vacation. I was studying from dawn till dusk, constantly on the go without a moment's rest. Even Auntie Chen, our housekeeper, looked at me with pity in her eyes, seeing me covered in bruises from my riding falls. Miss, shall I inform Madam that you'd like to take the day off today? I put on my shoes and shook my head. That won't be necessary. When Madame Wei first brought me home, she made it clear, a child of the Wei family is born to be exceptional, even if you are only an adopted daughter. The young lady from the Wen family next door doesn't have to go through all this hardship. Auntie Chen sighed and handed me the school bag. See, they've been making a racket all morning. I heard the whole family is going abroad for the holidays. I knew Auntie Chen said this because she felt I was being treated unfairly. I feel like I'm missing out on the simple joys of childhood that I should be enjoying at my age. I stood up and took the backpack. Auntie Chen, I'm not tired. I want to learn this. To others, the Wei family might seem like a living hell, but to me, it's not like that at all. The Wei family is an old money dynasty. Their deep-rooted heritage and vast resources are things that upstarts like the Wen family could never hope to match. This is where I can truly grow and thrive. Even though the Wei family's internal dynamics are complex, the Wei family doesn't accept me. Madame Wei is critical and cold, and Wei Yan himself is aloof and distant, lost in thought. A snow-white kitten suddenly darted to my feet. It was followed by a charming, yet exasperated, woman's voice. Xiao Guai, you've got the wrong person. Come back here, brother, help me get Xiao Guai back, please, silly girl. I stood up, holding the kitten in my arms. My gaze met that of a boy walking towards me. His face lit up with a doting smile. It was Wen Qingshi. 3. Wen Qingshi's smile froze when he saw me. His eyes filled with disgust. You actually followed me here, you just won't give up. Will you? He sneered, his malice undisguised. Don't tell me you think waiting here will make me soften. Dream on, Mingzhu. When Lin Long's surprised voice cut in, interrupting him, she walked up to me, holding her princess dress, and said happily, how wonderful. I never thought I'd see you here after leaving the orphanage. Is that car waiting for you? She took the kitten and looked curiously at the car parked not far behind me. The sight of it made her face instantly turn pale. Oh my. You were really adopted by the Wei family next door. I was about to answer when my gaze inadvertently fell on the keychain hanging at her collar, and my eyes paused. When Lin Lang noticed my stare and, with an awkward gesture, raised her hand to cover the pendant, pretending I hadn't seen it, I nodded and said, it's the Wei family, so, your name is Wei Mingzhu now. Wei being the family name, I glanced at Wen Qingshi, whose face was flushed with embarrassment from the misunderstanding. Yeah, are all the members of the Wei family that terrifying? Is it true what they say about the Wei family's young master, that he's sick and mute? She pointed mysteriously in the direction of the Wei residence and fired off her questions. I frowned. I was just about to refute it, but when Lin Lang didn't give me a chance to speak. Mingzhu, are you learning how to shoot? She tilted her head and scrutinized my riding and shooting outfit. Well, I've got something to attend to. I was just thinking of an excuse to leave when Wen Qingshi impatiently interrupted. Lin Lang, there's no point wasting words on someone like him. Let's go. When Lin Lang gave a little "oh," playfully sticking out her tongue. Don't mind him. My brother isn't usually like this. He's actually very gentle. I don't know what's gotten into him today. Brother, wait for me. She gathered her skirts and hurried after him. After a moment's pause, I too turned away. Behind me, the wind carried the conversation between Wen Lin Lang and Wen Qingshi to my ears. Brother, the Wei family is so strict. Mingzhu is the same age as me, but she has to go to lessons every single day. I saw bruises all over her from falls. It's so pitiful. Humph. What's the use of a girl learning such things? Some people just aren't destined for an easy life. Our Lin Lang. All she needs to do in this life is stay pretty like a little princess. A daughter of the Wen family doesn't need to suffer through such hardships. Mom, Dad, and brother are the absolute best. Suffering, is that so? So, the Wen family views hard work as a form of suffering. The corner of my mouth twitched. A past life. The Wen family parents truly doted on me, yet, they never approved of me learning any skills. I wanted to learn horsemanship and archery. They objected. Absolutely not. What if you get a scar? How would you ever find a husband then? I was being followed and wanted to learn self-defense. They refused that too, saying, what respectable family lets their daughter learn such things? The Wen family has bodyguards. No one can bully you. Later, I wanted to study business and finance. They would also say, why bother learning so much? With your brother in the Wen family, that's more than enough. It seemed like boundless indulgence, but in reality, it raised me to be a daughter vine, utterly dependent on others. But Mother Wei would tell me, those of the Wei family should learn everything they can and strive for everything they deserve. 4. The summer vacation flew by in the blink of an eye. The start of the new school term was upon us before we knew it. Wei's mother had already transferred me to the same international school as Wei Yan. It was also the school where Wen Qingshi and I had studied in our previous life. On the first day of school, I was sitting in the car bright and early. When Wei Yan opened the car door, I greeted him with a beaming smile. Hello, brother. Mom said we'll be going to school together from now on. Wei Yan paused for a second as he was getting into the car. Then, without a word, they sat down in the spot farthest from me. The next day, I did the same. The third day, the fourth day, 2 months passed like this. To my surprise, I realized that even though Wei Yan never responded to my words, on the occasional mornings when I was late for breakfast and came rushing out of the compound, I'd find him still waiting by the car with his backpack on. I hid my surprise, smiled, and said, "You're the best, big brother." As always, Wei Yan would give me a fleeting glance, then turn and get into the car without a word, except, this time, he stepped in with his right foot first. A faint smile touched my lips. What a wonderful change this is. That day, after school, I waited in the teaching building for a long time, but Wei Yan never came out, and I couldn't reach him through any of his contacts. Just as I was getting anxious, a thought flashed through my mind. It suddenly came back to me. At this very moment in my past life, a major incident occurred at the school gate. Back then, I was still buried in my studies, trying to catch up with the pace of the international school. I faintly overheard my classmates buzzing about someone from the Wei family coming to make trouble. Rumor had it that something had happened to their children. Then, many years later, I happened to hear someone mention that Wei Yan, the head of the Wei family, had been maliciously disfigured during his high school years. Could it really be today? Oh no, there's no time. It finally dawned on me. I quickly sent a message to the driver. I told him that if he didn't see me at the school gate, he should come find us directly. Then I dashed towards the alley behind the school. Wei Yan, don't let anything happen. 5. When I arrived, Wei Yan was pinned against the wall by a few hoodlums. Ha, is the young master Wei really a mute? He won't even make a sound no matter how much we hit him. A mute can't snitch. Do you want the Wei family coming after us? Damn it, this brat still dares to glare at me. One of them, who looked distinctly like a student, spat and pulled out a utility knife, slashing it towards Wei Yan's face. My heart sank. Out of the corner of my eye, I spotted the baseball bat on the ground. I took a deep breath, steeled myself, and charged out yelling, "I've called the police." I barged into the crowd, wildly swinging the bat. At that moment, I was grateful I had been taking my physical training classes seriously lately. The thugs were caught off guard and scattered in all directions from my blows. And because I said I had called the police, they backed down. Damn it, this kid got lucky. The group of men left, grumbling and cursing under their breath. Once they were a safe distance away, I rushed over to check on Wei Yan. A bloody scratch had been left on Wei Yan's face. Thankfully, it wasn't deep, but his arms and legs were covered in wounds. Hang in there, brother, I'm taking you home. I helped Wei Yan up and tried to leave, but a sudden, brutal force kicked me to the ground. Damn it. Brother Chen, I told you this little runt was lying. Calling the cops. TCH, you little bitch, already a liar at such a young age, a mute and a liar, a match made in heaven, ha ha ha. The man called Brother Chen was so furious that curses kept spilling out as he kicked me in the back, over and over. The pain forced me to bury my head, only to meet Wei Yan's terrified eyes. My lips trembling, I forced a smile and whispered in reassurance, "Brother, don't be afraid." Wei Yan's gaze suddenly froze. I shielded Wei Yan, refusing to retreat even a step. The fist from behind struck down with even greater anger. Just as the next blow was about to land, Wei Yan, who had been passive until now, suddenly sprang into action. He lunged at the person nearest to me, biting down on their hand with frenzied desperation. His sudden frenzy left Brother Chen and the others stunned for a few moments. But he was outnumbered, and was still forced to the ground. Several fists pounded mercilessly against his head and chest, and someone even pulled out an iron bar. So, was there really no way to change the outcome? Just as despair was setting in, from the mouth of the alley came the sound of voices and footsteps. Could it be the driver uncle? I struggled to open my eyes, hoping to see, in my field of vision, a pair of white sneakers came into view. 6. Their owner stood silhouetted against the light at the mouth of the alley. Brother Chen and his crew immediately shot a menacing glare in that direction. "Hey punk, what are you looking at?" "Punk, it's not the driver." I strained to open my eyes wide. I tried to make out the figure approaching, but my vision was blurred by blood, rendering it impossible. Just then, someone called out to him from a distance, "Qingshi, why are you just standing there? The strawberry cake shop is over here." The visitor fell silent for a moment. I'm here." I blinked my dry eyes and whispered softly, "Brother." The man's footsteps faltered briefly. In the end, he didn't look back, just led the girl away slowly into the distance. Unable to contain her curiosity, the girl peeked toward the alley's entrance and let out a terrified scream. "Ah, brother, it looks like someone's hurt over there." did you see that?" The next second, her eyes were covered. "Don't look, it's filthy," Wen Qingshi said softly. From a distance, I thought I heard him whisper, "My little Linlang, I found you earlier in this life, I will protect your innocence, you won't have to suffer under the Wei family's torment anymore, nor meet a premature end." In a daze, I recalled his dying words in our past life, murmured over and over, "It's all my fault, if only I had found you sooner." I thought he was referring to the accident that caused my miscarriage and subsequent infertility. He soothed me with a choked voice. "Old man, we'll be together in the next life, and we'll have children too." So, the regret from his past life had nothing to do with me. What haunted him was that he was with me that day, which prevented him from saving Wei Linlang in time. So in this life, he chose to keep her by his side, shielding her from all harm. So he didn't come here today to save me after all, he just wanted to see for himself how I, this imposter, was being tormented in place of his beloved. But in our past life, I vaguely remember hearing my classmates talk about it. After the incident involving the two Wei children, Wei Yan was sent abroad. Wei Linlang, however, was not permitted to go with him, and her standing within the Wei family deteriorated significantly. A girl who was in the know hinted at it discreetly. That day, she had seen Wei Linlang abandon Wei Yan. Wei Yan fought desperately to protect Wei Linlang, yet she didn't even look back as she fled. Yet Wen Qingshi seemed convinced that his delicate little flower was the victim. So, does Wen Qingshi really believe that his white moonlight is all that pure and kind? I let out a soft chuckle and wiped my eyes, then I scrambled to my feet and clung desperately to one of their legs. No matter how he kicked or cursed at me, I refused to let go. "Don't you dare hit my brother," until that final breath could hold on no longer. Before my eyes plunged into utter darkness. 7. When I woke up, a furry head was resting on the edge of the bed. The sharp smell of disinfectant made me realize I was in a hospital. "Looks like the driver and the others have arrived." I tried to sit up, but the movement must have been too much, waking Wei Yan. He opened his beautiful, peach blossom eyes and stared at me without blinking. After a long moment, he raised his hand and gently touched the bandage on my forehead. "Little sister, does it hurt?" It felt like it had been an eternity since I last spoke. His voice was still a bit hoarse, but it wasn't unpleasant. In fact, you could even say it was rather pleasant. Yet, I was still stunned. Wei Yan actually spoke to me. I wasn't the only one who was startled. Even Mrs. Wei, who had just pushed the door open, wore an expression of utter disbelief. Did Xiaoyan just speak?" She lost her usual composure. "Xiaoyan, could you say a few words to Mom too, please?" Wei Yan merely glanced at her before turning his attention back to my wound. Refusing to say another word, I felt a pang of awkwardness, wanting to offer comfort but unsure where to begin. "Mom, just now, brother he." Mrs. Wei shook her head, her eyes welling up. "It's alright, take it slow. Xiaoyan needs time." She didn't say anything more. Auntie Chen came in at just the right moment, carrying a lunchbox. During lunch, Auntie Chen said the matter at the alley entrance had been cleared up. It was just a bunch of local thugs who got wind of the Wei family's wealth and saw an opportunity. One of them, believe it or not, was even a student from the same school. Those young men were already adults. A prison sentence was inevitable. As for that student, he was disciplined and expelled. I nodded, my gaze settling on Wei Yan, who was quietly eating his meal. Who would have thought, in the previous life? It was just a flicker of wicked thought from these scum of society that dragged such a beautiful soul into the abyss. Fortunately, in this life, he is safe and sound. Seeing that I wasn't touching my chopsticks, Wei Yan looked at me curiously and said, "Sister, eat." I snapped out of my thoughts and served him some food. "You should eat too, brother." We had just finished the meal. Wei Yan was promptly hauled back by the nurse who barged in. Only then did I realize he had run over from another ward. Before leaving, he patted my head and said, "Get well soon, little one." Just a few simple words. Once again, the Wei family members present were moved to the point of tears. Aunt Chen also discreetly wiped the corner of her eye. Wei Yan left. Wei Yan's mother did not leave. She merely stood in place, watching his retreating figure. She wasn't wearing any makeup today, and it was as if she had instantly softened her sharp edges, appearing much gentler. Wei Yan wasn't like this before. He was very sensible, steady, and far more outstanding than many of his peers. Back then, everyone praised him as a prodigy, not as a little mute, autistic. She sat down beside me, her eyes glistening with tears. It all started with that accident 4 years ago. I froze. 8. Mother Wei said. Wei Yan once had a younger sister named Wei Shu. Wei Shu was the daughter of Wei Yan's paternal uncle. After Wei Yan's father and his uncle's family passed away in an accident, the entire Wei family's burden fell on Wei Yan's mother. Wei Shu was also taken in by Wei Yan's mother and raised as her own daughter. Those were difficult times for the Wei family. With the patriarch gone, the Wei family was like a piece of meat left out in the open, tempting every predator to take a bite. The matriarch had to harden her heart and adopt increasingly ruthless methods, which inevitably earned her many enemies. 4 years ago, the Wei children were kidnapped. At just 6 years old, Wei Shu saw his brother being beaten. He rushed forward and clamped his teeth onto the kidnapper's hand, refusing to let go. Enraged, the criminal brought a club down upon the boy's head. Again and again, Wei Yan, who had witnessed the entire ordeal, after he was rescued and brought back, he never smiled or spoke a single word again. Mrs. Wei tried every method, but nothing worked. Left with no other choice, she followed a friend's advice and decided to try adopting another little sister. Mrs. Wei stood up and walked to the window. She said, I wasn't the first one to be adopted. Xiao Yan hasn't warmed up to anyone like this in a long time. He really likes you. 9. A week later, I was discharged from the hospital and returned to the Wei household. The way people treat me has changed. Before, they saw me as a dispensable foster daughter who could be sent away at any moment, but now they regard me as a true young lady of the Wei family. However, my schedule of lessons did not lighten because of it. Even more so, as Mother Wei put it, if you're to join the Wei family in the future, how will you command respect without real skills? The Wei family members present were all taken aback. Their gazes held a mix of wariness and scrutiny. I didn't have time to think. I just looked at Wei Yan in a panic, afraid he might be upset about it. But then I saw him resting his chin in his hand, watching me, and he stammered out, Don't be scared, little sister, you're the best. Looking into Wei Yan's sparkling eyes, my eyes grew moist, and I nodded firmly. Yes, Mrs. Wei's gaze softened as well. You need to work hard too. Yan, if Mingzhu surpasses you, you'll have to rely on your little sister to protect you in the future. No way. Upon hearing this, Wei Yan immediately sprang to his feet in alarm. I will protect my sister. He even threw a few practice punches on the spot. Ever since that incident at school, Wei Yan began practicing martial arts with even greater dedication. Mrs. Wei and I exchanged a glance and couldn't help but chuckle. Looking at Wei Yan's anxious face, a smile touched my lips. Mother Wei once said, Yan is fortunate to have you. In this lifetime, I arrived at the Wei household. What a stroke of luck for me. 10. Time flies. Thanks to the Wei family's dedicated upbringing, I became the model child that many parents talk about. On the school's honor roll, my name would occasionally appear alongside that of Wei Yan, an upperclassman. In contrast, when Lin Lang, a top student in her past life, was too busy having fun and never once made the list. As for Wen Qingshi, a perennial slacker in both lifetimes, it goes without saying, to begin with, the relationship between the Wei and Wen families had always been distant. It was as if, in this lifetime, Wen Qingshi and I were fated to have no further connection. It only happened a handful of times. While scanning the results board, I caught a glimpse of Wen Qingshi standing at the back of the crowd out of the corner of my eye, his expression inscrutable. Brother, what are you staring at over there? Our names aren't on that. When Lin Lang looked utterly puzzled, It's nothing. When I looked back again, he had already taken Wen Lin Lang and left. In the midst of such days, I turned 18 and was about to take the college entrance exams. As for Wei Yan, he had accepted an offer from a foreign university 3 years prior. He is currently studying abroad. The day of my college entrance exam, even though I refused many times, Wei Yan still dropped his research project and rushed back overnight to accompany me for the exam. My sister's matters are the most important. I had no choice but to go along with it. The final exam was over. I walked out of the school. In the distance, there was Wei Yan, leaning against the car, dressed in casual black. His striking appearance drew many glances from those around him. My hope of keeping a low profile was instantly shattered. Just as I thought, wherever Wei Yan went, he was bound to cause a stir. He was no longer the little mute everyone used to mock. Now, with his refined and noble air, he could easily make girls blush just by passing by. I quickly stepped forward to hurry him along. Bro, let's go, now. Though Wei Yan was confused, he obediently took my backpack. "You're not happy I came to pick you up." I didn't have time to explain, I just hurriedly pushed him toward the car. "No, didn't we already make plans with the others? If we're late, everyone will have something to say about it. We've arranged to get together with a group of friends we've known since we were kids, to celebrate my brother's return home, and once my college entrance exams were over." 11. After the gathering, our companions suggested heading to the track for a couple of laps. Wei Yan and I had nothing else to do, so we tagged along. The racetrack, a small exhibition race, was underway inside. "Who's the winner?" My friend looked up at the big screen and exclaimed in surprise. "Wen Qingshi. He's back in the country too, and he's into racing." "Is he any good?" Wen Qingshi's academic performance was average. Back then, like Wei Yan, he didn't take the college entrance exam. The difference was, he went abroad to get a watered-down degree. After all, he's the Wen family heir. So people still recognized him. In an instant, everyone's attention shifted his way. It was as if he was responding to our doubts. The flamboyant red race car crossed the finish line. The man stepped out of the car, squinting his eyes as he basked in the roar of the crowd. After years apart, the youthful naivety had faded from him. He was looking more and more like him from the past life. In the family and friends section, a girl, holding up the hem of her dress, dashed out and threw her arms around the man, planting a kiss on his cheek. "Qingshi, you look so dashing." Their relationship was clear for all to see. In my past life, as the Wen family's publicly acknowledged adopted daughter, I faced no shortage of obstacles when I got together with Wen Qingshi. In this lifetime, somehow, Wen Qingshi managed to persuade his parents, when Linlang was not formally recognized as their adopted daughter, to the outside world. She was simply the daughter of a family friend, staying with them temporarily. Looking back now, that's quite a thoughtful gesture, I must say. At that moment, the striking combination of the handsome man and the beautiful woman completely electrified the crowd. My friend clicked his tongue in disapproval. "Looks like the Wen family has booked out the whole place tonight. Alright, let's move on to the next spot." I averted my gaze and was about to follow the others as they left. A commotion broke out up ahead. Wen Qingshi, holding Wen Linlong's hand, walked over. Surrounded by a crowd, the two groups unexpectedly ran into each other. Wen Qingshi's gaze swept over the crowd and landed on me, a flicker of admiration flashing in his eyes. He hesitated for a moment, then, as if to avoid suspicion, he released Wen Linlong's hand. "Brother," Wen Linlang called out in displeasure, turning her head to glare at me. "Wei Mingzhu, what are you doing here?" She scrutinized me. After not seeing each other for a while, the look in her eyes suddenly turned hostile towards me. Just as I was wondering what was going on, she spoke again. "Don't tell me you heard that Qingshi is back in the country and came specifically to watch his match." Hearing this, Wen Qingshi, who was standing nearby, paused for a moment, his gaze sweeping over me as if it were nothing, as if to say, "I knew it." I was speechless. Am I really that boring? Wei Yan also frowned. He stepped forward, his tall frame completely blocking my view. Wen Qingshi's eyes darkened as he watched Wei Yan's movement, and he finally spoke. His tone was flat. "Mingzhu, Linlang is blunt. Please don't take it to heart." "Brother," Wen Linlang refused to let it go, stamping her foot. "Why are you being so polite to her? Who knows if she's deliberately following us?" "Linlang, that's enough," Wen Qingshi interjected in a low voice, his gaze drifting involuntarily towards me. Standing behind Wei Yan, "Even if it were true, we shouldn't ruin someone's reputation," he discovered to his astonishment. "It's been years, I've changed a lot." The poise cultivated by the Wei family is something the petty Wen Linlang could never hope to match. Young Master Wen, keep your precious sister in check. She shouldn't bite everyone she sees. 12. One of their friends, unimpressed by the Wen siblings' antics, scoffed. "Mingzhu is here to celebrate the end of the Gaokao, not to watch some, well, your little amateur sideshow of a competition." The sarcasm in their voice was unmistakable. "What do you mean by that?" Wen Linlong's eyes widened instantly. "Brother Qingshi just won first place. And you call it child's play?" Wen Qingshi's expression darkened slightly. Fresh off the high of victory and praise, it's no wonder he's bristling at the sudden mockery. "Young Master Wei, fancy running into you in a place like this. That last match was hardly satisfying. Care for a proper race." He ignored everyone else, his gaze fixed intently on Wei Yan. Wei Yan frowned and started to step forward, but I grabbed his arm and shook my head. "I don't want to get into it with Wen Qingshi." Seeing this, Wen Qingshi gave a low chuckle. "Too scared? Fine, forget it then." The provocation was absolute, the air seemed to freeze, their friends looked uneasy, but no one dared to step up for Wei Yan and accept the challenge. After all, they knew that Wei Yan hadn't been behind the wheel of a race car for years. I, however, kept my composure and let go. Wei Yan then reached over and ruffled my hair affectionately. "Want to see your big brother win?" I nodded and said with a smile, "Go get him, big brother." Wei Yan turned and walked toward the competition area. Not even glancing at Wen Qingshi. Wen Qingshi had never been so thoroughly ignored. His face was as dark as a thundercloud. "What a show-off." He ground out the words through clenched teeth and stalked toward his car, his expression stormy. On the racetrack, the starting gun fired. Wen Qingshi's signature red race car shot forward, instantly pulling ahead of Wei Yan's black car. The engine's roar was deafening. "If you can't handle it, go back to being the perfect student. Stop trying to play the big shot." Wen Linlang shot me a smug, sidelong glance and said, "It's only just begun. What are you all so pleased about? You're already falling behind at the start, and you think you can catch up to brother Qingshi." The people around all chimed in agreement. My friends were hopping mad, but they had no comeback. I watched the track in silence, saying nothing. Then, on a high-speed corner, the black car executed a textbook-perfect late-braking maneuver into the turn, overtook the red car, and was the first to cross the finish line. The track fell silent. Wen Linlang fell silent too. Someone in the crowd said hesitantly, "That person's cornering technique looks familiar, like last year's Triple Crown champion, God W." He said it very quietly. He seemed unable to believe it. I remained quiet, my expression blank. At just 11 years old, Wei Yan won the International Junior Cup and was hailed as a racing prodigy, even though there was a break in between. He's long since gotten back into the swing of things in recent years. Last year, he went on to sweep all 3 major championships. It's just that he keeps a low profile, never shows his face, so few have ever seen what he really looks like. Wei Yan pushed the car door open, walked straight up to me, and extended his hand. "Little sister, let's go home." "All right." I smiled and linked my arm with Wei Yan's. Behind us, Wen Linlong's flustered attempts at consolation reached our ears. Wen Qingshi's face, contorted with rage. 13. In the blink of an eye, the Gaokao results were released. I was the top scorer in the Gaokao. I wasn't surprised, but Mrs. Wei and Wei Yan were absolutely delighted. They said we'd wait until the university acceptance letter arrived, then they would take me abroad for a trip. I mentioned that I still had a lot of classes to finish. Wei Yan frowned. "Mingzhu, your wound too tight. You should get out and relax a little," Wei's mother added. "No matter how bad things get, the Wei family will always have your back, understand?" I was slightly taken aback. I suddenly realized, have I been pushing myself too hard since my rebirth? So that's how it is. The pain of not being Wen Qingshi's unwavering choice after my rebirth cut far deeper than I ever imagined. That's why I drove myself relentlessly, desperate to earn the Wei family's approval, afraid of being abandoned all over again. I looked into the 2 pairs of concerned eyes before me. A warmth spread through my heart. I decided to go along with them. On the day we set off for the airport, I ran into the Wen family. The atmosphere among them seemed rather tense. Mr. and Mrs. Wen wore stern expressions. Wen Qingshi's face was also impassive. Wen Linlang trailed behind Wen Qingshi, uncharacteristically quiet and sullen. Wen Linlang was caught cheating on the college entrance exam. Her scores were invalidated, and now the Wen family is the laughingstock of high society. Mrs. Wei averted her gaze and said with a smile, "Too ashamed to face the music. They're rushing to send her abroad before the new semester even starts, hoping to let the scandal blow over." I'm a bit surprised. Has Wen Linlang lost her mind? What was she thinking? To be so bold, given her situation. Why not just go abroad and get a cushy degree? Why take such a huge risk? I shook my head, not wanting to dig any deeper. What does it have to do with me? While boarding the plane, I felt a gaze settle upon me. I turned my head to look, and there, not far away, was Wen Qingshi, caught red-handed. He froze for a second, his expression unreadable. "Congratulations, top scorer in the Gaokao." "Thanks." I turned my head away, indifferent. Wen Qingshi was stunned for a moment, then took a step forward, eager to chase after her. "Mingzhu." But Wen Linlang held him back tightly, glaring at me with venom. "Brother, she doesn't even want to acknowledge you. Let go of me." Wen Qingshi paid no heed and shoved Wen Linlang away. Wen Linlang tumbled to the ground in a heap, and the long-suppressed anguish within her finally erupted. She couldn't understand it. The brother who had always doted on her, had been so cold to her lately. Are you having regrets now? But it was you who abandoned her first. Those words rooted Wen Qingshi's feet to the spot. It's my turn in line. I didn't look back. Followed the Wei family through the boarding gate. Hawaii, here we come. 14. The days went by. Entering university, I continuously absorbed new knowledge and gradually learned to apply the resources I've mastered. During my sophomore year, I began assembling my own research team. Every single member of the team was excellent, just as capable as I was. To show her support for me, Mrs. Wei entrusted me with the full operational control of a small subsidiary under the Wei family's banner. Our team's very first project was a resounding success, propelling the subsidiary to new heights. Several subsequent scientific research achievements followed. This even allowed the subsidiary to catch up with the parent company on several occasions. As a rising star in the business world, I began to attract attention from all quarters. Upon my graduation, Wei Yan returned to the country and officially joined the Wei Group headquarters. Many were waiting to see the clash between the Wei family's eldest son and his adopted sister. They assumed that since Wei Yan returned to the country and went straight into the headquarters, while I only inherited a subsidiary, I would inevitably be resentful, but I wasn't. On the contrary, I gave Wei Yan my full support. With the support of both myself and Mrs. Wei, coupled with his own exceptional abilities, Wei Yan quickly found his footing. At the same time, the Wei Group issued a statement announcing that the subsidiary under my control would henceforth separate from the Wei Group and be renamed the Bright Moon Group. That day, the fireworks on the rooftop of the Minghui Group blazed through the entire night. Wei Yan stood beside me and said, "Mingzhu, you must remember. The Wei family will always be the steadfast backing of the Minghui Group." That's not necessarily true. I blinked and teased him with a mischievous look. Who knows, maybe one day Minghui will be the Wei family's greatest support, brother, Wei Yan said with a smile. That's right, my little sister is the most capable. I turned my head, gazing at the neon lights below. I smiled. This was my deal with Wei's mother. Give me Minghui, and I will always support Wei Yan, just a subsidiary. I thought you'd want something else, like half of the Wei Group. At that moment, Mrs. Wei raised an eyebrow and said, "Who knows, even Mom might agree." No, I shook my head. What I want is something that belongs only to me, something that is wholly Wei Mingzhu's. Having lived 2 lives, I am convinced, only what is completely within my grasp can truly be controlled. 15. As a distinguished graduate, I was invited by my alma mater to participate in an equestrian archery competition. I was to compete on behalf of the school. For me, such an event was nothing more than a rare and welcome respite from my busy work life. Just as expected, I won the championship with ease. As I stepped off the podium, school officials swarmed around me, forming one circle after another. It took some effort to finally break free. Someone called out to me again, "Mingzhu, Wen Qingshi has arrived too, come to think of it. This is the first time we've met since he returned to China to take over the Wen family business." Ignoring Wen Linlong's resentful glare, he walked up to me, looked over my riding attire, and marveled, You've become even more remarkable." His eyes held admiration, disappointment, and regret as he looked at me. Suddenly, I felt that this gaze was very familiar. A past life. I accompanied him to a formal dinner. Wei Linlang, the adopted daughter of the Wei family, took to the stage and performed a piece on the piano. Back then, the way he looked at her was exactly the same. For a moment, I wanted to laugh. Even after being reborn, Wen Qingshi's preferences remained unchanged. He always did, something he could never have. I gave a polite nod to the dejected man before me, a simple acknowledgement, but I didn't stop walking. He refused to let me pass, blocking my path. His expression dark and unreadable. What if I said we could start over? And you could still be my little sister? I was completely baffled. Did he really think that highly of himself? I cut him off coldly. I have no idea what you're talking about, Mr. Wen. If you have so much free time, perhaps you should focus more on the Wen family business. Wen Qingshi's face darkened instantly. To the best of my knowledge, during this period, the Wen family business is in dire straits. With its stock price plummeting, a past life, the Wen clan had once faced this same calamity. Wen Qingshi was a proud man. Back then, I dredged up the meager affection from our childhood and pleaded before Wei Yan, who had already become the dreaded Yan Luo Wei. That was the price of their aid. This life, having been reborn, Wen Qingshi had indeed made preparations in advance. Unfortunately, the Wen family's foundations were rotten to the core long ago. This time, Without the Wei family's support, his abilities are limited. He cannot protect it. The Wen clan, Perilous, 16. I can't be bothered to argue with him any further. I turn to leave without another word. Wei Mingzhu, Qingshi, and I are about to get engaged. Could you please stay away from us and stop showing up all the time? When Linlang, who had been completely ignored, rushed over like a madwoman and blocked my path. When Qingshi shoved her aside, "What's gotten into you? Since you can't help me with anything, could you at least stop making things worse?" When Qingshi's brow furrowed deeply. When Linlang was thrown to the ground, she stared at Wen Qingshi in disbelief, at the disgust and contempt in his eyes, until that last shred of hope within her shattered completely. "I'm causing trouble." When Linlang suddenly burst into a fit of hysterical laughter, pointing first at Wen Qingshi, then at me. "Wen Qingshi, you're having regrets, aren't you? What, you think she'd ever want to come back to you? She's Wei Mingzhu now. Just who do you think you are, this time? You were the one who chose me. How dare you be the first to grow tired?" I finally understand. So, when Linlang is back too, that explains it. No wonder she's acting so crazy. "Shut up." When Qingshi shot a panicked glance at me and pulled Wen Linlang to her feet. "I'm sorry you had to witness that embarrassing scene with my sister." "Did you just call me sister? We're about to get engaged, and you call me sister?" When Linlang shouted persistently. When Qingshi frowned but, suppressing his anger, explained in a low voice through gritted teeth. When Linlang simply wouldn't listen, their argument grew even more heated. I pretended not to understand a thing. I hurried out of the conference hall. I didn't truly relax until I was safely inside Wei Yan's car. He asked with a laugh. "What's the matter? Did you see a ghost or something?" I nodded with complete seriousness. There really was one. It was terrifying. "You can say that again. I can't believe I ran into them at an event. What rotten luck." 17. The Bright Moon Group is experiencing rapid growth. This was further amplified by our cross-industry collaboration with the Wei Group, a true powerhouse alliance. The results were remarkable. I became the industry's rising star, a byword for success. Nowadays, my name is on everyone's lips. She was no longer that adopted daughter of the Wei family, but Wei Mingzhu of the Bright Moon Group. As for the Wen family, however, their fortunes had declined sharply. I heard they had sold off many assets and even divested significant portions of their shares, even though, out of gratitude for their upbringing in my past life, I restrained the Wei family and the Bright Moon Group from joining the other prominent families and kicking them while they were down. It was just enough to preserve the foundation. I saw Wen Qingshi once again. It was at a project bidding meeting. I was seated on the judging panel. Wen Qingshi sat below with Wen Linlang. He glanced at me from a distance, then awkwardly averted his gaze. The once prominent Wen family had now been reduced to just one of many bidders. I looked away and paid it no further mind. During the mid-conference break, I stepped out to use the restroom, while I was washing my hands. When Linlang appeared quietly behind me. "We need to talk." I glanced at her, wiped my hands, and walked into the adjoining lounge. She followed me. "You came back too." "Actually, right, does it matter?" I asked. She halted in her tracks, her voice rising sharply. "When Qingshi left you and chose me, does that truly not bother you?" My expression remained impassive. "Ha, he pushed you toward that damned Wei family. He knew full well that Madame Wei is utterly hypocritical, and Wei Yan is no good man. Watch your words. So now you're defending the Wei family." She glanced at me and sneered. "Oh, I forgot. You're the esteemed Miss Wei now. You've certainly managed to make the Weiss treasure you. Quite the schemer, aren't you? Feelings are reciprocal. You get what you give." I replied calmly. "Ha, exactly. You know what? I can't stand that holier-than-thou act of yours. Why should you have it all? In our past life, the Wen family took you in. You grew up in such a blissful environment. And you even married brother Qingshi. And in this life, even after being sent to that wretched Wei family, you still managed to win their affection. You even stole brother Qingshi's attention from me. Why, what exactly did I lack?" Watching Wen Linlang's deranged state, I cautiously took a step back. "You've got it all wrong. Wen Qingshi only has eyes for you. But aren't they about to get engaged?" Upon hearing this, she threw her head back and laughed heartily. "He likes me. But the one he's been pining for all this time, his white moonlight, it was never me. It was the original owner of this necklace. It was you, Wei Mingzhu." 18. She yanked the key pendant from her neck, her face twisting into a smile more bitter than tears. "Do you remember, when we were kids, you saved a boy from drowning right outside the orphanage? he was dressed so richly, so when you went to find matron, his family came looking. I pretended to be you and took this necklace, he said. He said he would come back. I waited and waited, only to find out he brought you back to the Wen family. I just couldn't stand to see you happy, so I deliberately hinted at it in front of brother Qingshi. He was tempted, but then she said bitterly, I just accidentally let a little information slip, and Lady Wei wants to throw me out. That psycho Wei Yan even wants to beat me to death. He's doing this on purpose. He's holding a grudge because I left him at the alleyway. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have run out, and none of this would have happened. Thank goodness everything can start over. But now, brother Qingshi says he doesn't want to get engaged to me anymore. He only had eyes for me before. I understand completely now, the meaning behind Wen Qingshi's words in my past life, telling me to find you sooner. What a pity, when Linlang is still so naive. The one Wen Qingshi could never forget was never me, Wei Mingzhu. What he loved was the unattainable Miss Wei, whether that person is Wei Mingzhu or Wei Linlang. In her past life, when Linlang was a daughter of the Wei family, even if she wasn't the favorite, the prestige and upbringing she received were genuine, like a white moon hanging high in the sky, untouchable. In this life, their roles are reversed. That unattainable light in his eyes has now shifted onto me. I looked past her at Wen Qingshi, who had appeared at some point, his face a mask of shock. I shook my head. You're wrong. What have I done wrong? What gives you the right to look down on me and judge me? When Linlang's incessant chatter was cut off by Wen Qingshi's furious roar, you lied to me, you bitch. If I hadn't chosen you, how could I have ended up in this mess? His eyes were wide with fury, chest heaving as he glared fixedly at Wen Linlang. The storm broke suddenly. I rushed outside. I closed the lounge door behind me. At the end of the corridor, backlit, Wei Yan stood there as if he had been waiting for me for a long time, yet not a hint of impatience showed. I hurried forward. Let's go, brother. 19. When Linlang stole the Wen family's internal documents and handed them over to their rivals, the Wen family was torn apart by internal strife and nearly collapsed, because Wen Qingshi refused to marry her, and even consulted with his parents about arranging a marriage alliance for her. When Linlang has completely lost it, driven by if I can't have it. No one can mentality, she took a drastic turn and defected to the rival company. With less than 2 months to go before the auction, I received this news. Regarding the incident of the stolen documents, I'm not surprised, whether in a past life or this one, when Linlang's true colors remain unchanged. Just as I thought, I heard about this from Wei Yan. Just laugh it off. Who would have thought the Wen family would be in trouble again? Wen Qingshi has been hospitalized. He was stabbed by Wen Linlang. Rumor has it, Wen Linlang didn't get far that day. She was caught by the Wen family. The Wen family had a change of heart and intended to talk some sense into her. To everyone's shock, Wen Linlang not only refused to listen, but pulled out a knife and stabbed towards her own mother, who had doted on her since childhood. It's all your fault, you old hag. If you hadn't given Qingshi that idea, he would never have agreed to let me marry someone else. When Qingshi rushed forward to block the attack, even if Wen Linlang wanted to pull the knife back, it was already too late. Wen Qingshi is now lying in the hospital, fighting for her life. The Wen family showed no mercy and had her taken directly to the police station. Theft of trade secrets, attempted murder. The rest of Wen Linlang's life, she will likely spend the rest of her life in prison. 20. 1 year later, the Minghui group has officially listed overseas. The Wei family threw a grand celebration banquet in my honor, inviting countless luminaries from the political and business worlds. With a gracious smile, I conversed effortlessly with the titans from every sector. I was surrounded and showered with compliments by the crowd. My gaze drifted unintentionally to the corner. There stood Wen Qingshi, looking thoroughly ill at ease. His suit was still well tailored, but the style was long out of date, and signs of wear were even visible at the edges. I only took a single glance. He averted his gaze. The Wen family was able to attend the banquet. This was the result of Mrs. Wen's desperate plea. Such a high-profile dinner was a gathering of influential figures. They wanted to seize this opportunity once more. Out of consideration for their past as neighbors, Mrs. Wei finally relented. The Wen family is now drowning in debt. They had long since moved out of the villa district. The time for the ball had arrived. I turned down quite a few invitations. As the guests began to disperse, I slipped out alone onto the terrace, hoping to steal a quiet moment for myself. The evening breeze brushed against my face, cool and refreshing. I was lost in thought. when Qingshi had quietly drawn near at some point. Mingzhu. He was gazing at me, utterly transfixed. You came back too, didn't you? After all the years we've spent together, you can't fool me. The night breeze seemed to pause for a second. His voice was very low. Back at the orphanage, you could have acknowledged me. Why? I turned around and looked at him calmly. I just wanted to choose a path without you. And you were doing the exact same thing, weren't you? The words struck Wen Qingshi's heart like an icy blade, piercing with perfect precision. He staggered backward, his face as pale as paper in the moonlight. His lips trembled, wanting to say something in rebuttal, but he found he couldn't utter a single word. Yes, he was the one who chose a different path first. What right does he have, questioning me? He turned away, utterly dejected, his back hunched as if all his strength had been drained in an instant, until his figure vanished completely. I never looked away. Mingzhu. A low, hoarse voice came from behind. I turned around to look at Wei Yan. He walked over, his gaze subtly sweeping the direction from which Wen Qingshi had just departed. Then, he handed me a cup of warm honey water. Tired? He asked softly, his tone laced with genuine concern. I took the cup, gazing at Wei Yan's elegantly aloof profile. My eyes then drifted to the banquet hall, where Wei's mother was conversing gracefully with others. Not tired, I shook my head, a faint smile touching my lips as I gently rested my head on Wei Yan's shoulder. Brother, you know what? My life has truly been wonderful. I have a mother who, though strict, has always respected me. I have an older brother who always shields me from life's storms. The warmth of this moment is within reach, utterly real. All that suffering and betrayal are now in the past. This lifetime, may I shine brightly. Story 2. The day the village was swallowed up by the flood, Qin Yanli and I were separated by the flood. Many years later, we met again. I never married in my life. While he had a large family with children and grandchildren, I then learned that he had let go of my hand in the flood that year. It was to go back and save his first love, Su Hui. In order to get rid of the marriage contract with me, he changed his name in a distant place and lived a life of mutual support with Su Hui. Everyone sighed at their immortal love of the older generation, but I wasted my whole life looking for him. I passed away in depression not long after we met again. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the night when my parents forced me to have a relationship with Qin Yanli to make the marriage a fait accompli. 1. In my previous life, I met Qin Yanli again at a grand birthday banquet. It was Su Hui's 60th birthday banquet hosted by him. The scene was filled with celebrities, and the cake was as tall as 2 people. Everyone was dressed in gorgeous clothes, raising their glasses to celebrate. As a cleaner, I stood in a corner of the venue and suddenly saw a familiar face. Although he had aged, I could never forget the cinnabar mole under his eye. The well-tailored black suit set off the old man with gray hair, making him look straight and upright. He wore gold-rimmed glasses and had an elegant manner as he clinked glasses with the woman beside him. I recognized her as Su Hui at once. Time had been kind to her. At the age of 60, Su Hui was wearing a warm white cheongsam that outlined her slender waist. Her skin was delicate and smooth, without a single wrinkle, and she looked no more than a little over 40. In contrast, when I looked at myself reflected in the glass window, I was short and plump, with gray hair all over my head, and my face was weathered and haggard from years of exposure to the wind and sun. Looking at Professor Zhou and his wife, I finally understand what it means to help each other through difficult times and grow old together. They are like a talented scholar and a beautiful woman stepping out of classical poetry. I'm so envious. Look at the way Professor Zhou looks at his wife. His eyes are full of love. There were praises all around. But why was he called Professor Zhou? He was clearly Qin Yanli, whom I had been looking for 40 years. I walked onto the stage with trembling steps. It was only when I grabbed his hand that I knew it wasn't an illusion. Yanli, I'm Sui Yan. I've been looking for you for a long, long time. Hot tears fell. The familiar yet strange eyes under the gold-rimmed glasses froze for a moment, and then he roughly pushed my hand away. He took 2 steps back and frowned tightly. Who are you? I don't know you. This voice made me even more certain that he was Qin Yanli. Afraid that I would never see him again, I shouted desperately, I'm Lu Sui Yan. We were childhood sweethearts and had a betrothal marriage since we were young. In the flood disaster in 1999, the village was destroyed, and we were separated by the flood. I've been looking for you for 40 years. They all said you were dead. It's so good, Yanli, that you're still alive. In sharp contrast to my loss of control was the silence at the scene. Everyone was watching the show. with contemptuous smiles on their faces. The person I was staring at deeply just looked at me with disgust. I suddenly realized that Chin Yanli seemed reluctant to recognize me. Whispers began to spread around. Has this aunt watched too many TV dramas? Does she think she can have something to do with the renowned literary master, Professor Zhou Yan, just by making up a story? The love between Professor Zhou and his wife is so noble. How can this cleaning aunt even mention the words childhood sweethearts? Look at her appearance. How could she possibly know Professor Zhou? She's just daydreaming. At this time, Su Hui's voice came from the side. She was as elegant as a swan and said calmly in the face of the chaos, "Madam, you've mistaken someone. My husband and I have never heard of anyone named Lu Suiyan. You've made a mistake and disrupted my birthday. If you don't leave now, don't blame us for pursuing liability." Su Hui's voice was also familiar. I was certain that they were both pretending. They just didn't want to have anything to do with me. Uncle and Aunt Chen passed away 3 years ago. They were still thinking of you before they left. I suddenly looked up and stared at him fiercely. Chin Yanli, why didn't you go back to the village and take a look? Just because you didn't want to marry me, you even abandoned your own parents. Are you still human? Chin Yanli's expression finally showed a hint of loosening. He quickly adjusted his glasses, avoided my gaze, and said angrily, "I said, you've mistaken someone. My surname is Zhou." The middle-aged man who looked very much like Chin Yanli pushed me to the ground. "My father can't possibly know someone like you. Security guards, come here quickly." Even the child in his arms took the opportunity to spit in my face. 2. Over the years. In order to find Chin Yanli and take care of Uncle and Aunt Chen, I had done everything I could. Because of the betrothal marriage contract from our childhood, I never married in my life. However, Chin Yanli had clearly survived the flood but never returned to the village once. He changed his name in a distant place, married Su Hui, achieved success and fame, and had a large family. I wasn't willing to accept this. The day after I was thrown out of the hotel, I printed thousands of leaflets and made public my experience of searching for someone for 40 years. Chin Yanli and Su Hui were afraid of the great impact, so they privately found me and said they wanted to make peace. They put several stacks of money on the tea table. Su Hui held her head high. 500,000 yuan is enough for your old age support. Chin Yanli sat beside Su Hui with a slight frown, holding her hand. I stared blankly. It turned out that my 40 years were only worth 500,000 yuan. Do you think it's too little? Think for yourself. Can a rural woman like you earn 500,000 yuan in her whole life? Yanli and Ian and I have already done our best. Su Hui firmly took Chin Yanli's arm. Seeing that I didn't say anything, Chin Yanli impatiently stamped his foot. It's all in the past. What else do you want? I suddenly felt like laughing and looked up at the old man who was already white-haired. Back then, you let go of my hand in the flood to save Su Hui, right? Chin Yanli remained calm. You could swim, but Shao Wei couldn't. What's there to talk about? But how could he know how self-blaming I was when I was struggling in the flood at that time? For 40 years, I had thought it was my fault. In countless dreams at midnight, all I could see were the scenes of the flood swallowing Chin Yanli. It turned out that there was nothing to talk about. I lowered my head, clenched my hands, and asked in a low voice, "What about Uncle and Aunt Chen? At least they were innocent." Chin Yanli sneered, "Innocent? How could they be innocent when they forced me to marry you?" He didn't seem to feel any guilt at all. "Lu Suiyan, I'm telling you, I'm free. Parents who ignore my thoughts are not worth having. Moreover, as you can see, I didn't do anything wrong. Without your constraints, I have achieved great success. If I had really married you instead of Shao Wei back then, I don't know which mountain village I would be regretting in now." The more Chin Yanli talked, the more excited he became, as if he had suffered a lot over the years. "Take the money and be content," Su Hui sneered. "I didn't take the money because I was afraid they would accuse me of extortion." After leaving the villa, I continued to distribute leaflets and contact the media. I wanted to spend the rest of my life telling the world about the evil deeds of these two people, but before I could witness their downfall, I collapsed on the Cross River Bridge as if I had burned out and never got up again. Chin Yanli and Su Hui were still regarded as an ideal couple in the eyes of the world. I became the cleaning aunt who caused a scene at the celebrity's birthday banquet and was widely spread in short videos. When I opened my eyes again, in front of me was the familiar bungalow in my hometown. 3. You two have a betrothal marriage. Why can't you sleep together? In my opinion, you should quickly make the marriage a fait accompli and let the Chen family send the betrothal gifts. The hoarse voice startled me. My father took another sip of wine. Stop eating and go quickly. Seeing that I didn't move, my mother patted my hand. Your father is doing this for your own good. If you don't keep an eye on Yanli, be careful that someone else takes him away. I finally realized that I had been reborn. Are you deaf? Usually, when Yanli is mentioned, you can grin from ear to ear. Why are you being so coy now? My father shouted. I slammed the bowl on the dining table. Mom and Dad, I won't marry this man. My mother's eyes widened, and my younger brother's chopsticks fell to the ground. The next second, my father slapped me, but I dodged backward. What are you talking nonsense about? What's wrong with you today, child? My mother's voice was full of anxiety. My younger brother gnawed on the steamed bun and sneered. Sister, you finally realize that brother Yanli can't possibly like you. I thought you would never understand. Yes, why didn't I understand back then? Why did I have to pour out my heart and soul for someone who wasn't worthy? In my previous life, under the coercion of my family, I braved the severe cold and went to the Chen family's house. The parents of the Chen family treated me well. They took my hand and invited me to have a meal. Only Chen Yanli pulled me outside with a cold face. Running to a man's house at night, who doesn't know what's on your mind? Are you really that impatient? I lowered my head and stammered. It's my father, who drove me out, he said. He said that if I didn't spend the night at the Chen family's house, he wouldn't let me back home. Of course, Chen Yanli didn't believe me. He snorted coldly and ordered. I've already said I'll marry you. What's the hurry? Go back. With a bang, he turned around and bolted the door. I didn't notice his undisguised disgust at all. I was excited by his vow that he would marry me. In the heavy snow, I was afraid of being beaten if I went home, so I sat in front of the Chen family's door for a long time. I didn't dare to drag my frozen legs back until the second half of the night. My father still noticed the sound of me opening the door. He slapped me several times and scolded me for being useless. Even though I was beaten, I was still happy in my heart, because Chen Yanli said he would marry me. What was there to worry about? But this time, I didn't want to suffer from the cold and be beaten, and I didn't want to belittle myself anymore. Anyway, I will never marry him. After saying that, I took 2 steamed buns and went into my room. The narrow room was full of traces of Chen Yanli. There were his discarded calligraphy works pasted on the wall, the broken pen he had thrown away on the table, the unused pencil case. Everything related to him was carefully collected by me and regarded as a treasure. But thinking of the ending in my previous life, everything in front of me became hateful. I threw all the things related to him into the trash can at once, having a second chance at life. I don't want to have anything to do with him anymore. Early the next morning, my mother, as usual, stuffed 2 hard-boiled eggs into my hands. This one is for Yanli. Looking at the eggs in front of me, I suddenly remembered my previous life. At that time, regardless of spring, summer, autumn, or winter, I would always put the warm eggs in my arms and run to school, and then put them in Chen Yanli's desk drawer. One day, he came to my desk and said awkwardly, Sui Yen, 1 egg isn't enough to fill me up. I thought so too. He was in the stage of growing taller and needed more food. So every day after that, I gave him my egg as well. But who would have thought that while I was starving every day, Chen Yanli used my breakfast to court Su Hui? I found him to ask for an explanation, and he was actually very confident. You know that Su Hui only has her mother, and her family is in a difficult situation. What's wrong with helping a classmate? As he spoke, he sighed disappointedly. I didn't expect you to be so stingy. After we get married, will you still cut back on my food? After being said like this by him, I felt self-blamed, and because he mentioned getting married, my face turned red. I was deceived by his few words and continued to contribute my breakfast, thinking of myself at that time. I was really stupid. Mom, 1 is enough. What's wrong? Aren't you going to eat today? As soon as my mother finished speaking, I peeled the egg and stuffed it into my mouth. Then I went out to school under her stunned gaze. Chen Yanli arrived at the classroom a few minutes after me. He was wearing a black windbreaker and brushed off the snow on his body, behind a pair of round glasses. His brows were composed. He was tall and slender, always having an elegant and outstanding temperament that didn't match our small village at all. Chen Yanli, as usual, groped in the desk drawer, but after searching for a long time, he found nothing. He seemed not to believe it and bent down to check carefully. After confirming that it was empty, he suddenly turned around and looked at me. My attention was on memorizing words. At this time, Su Hui walked in with her head down. She was wearing a clean floral cotton padded jacket and had 2 braids. In the cold winter, Unlike us who were all frostbitten with red cheeks, her skin was translucent, like a peach. Her slender hands showed that she had never done any housework. I remembered that Qin Yanli always said she was pitiful. Now it seemed that I couldn't see where her pitifulness was, although she only had her mother. Her mother loved and protected her very much and would never let her do any heavy work, and I had been herding cows, gathering pigweed, and carrying well water since I was a child, and I would be slapped by my father for no reason. My hands were as rough as sandpaper. If we were talking about being pitiful, it seemed that I was the more pitiful one, right? However, Qin Yanli had never cared about me even once. It wasn't that he couldn't see it, but that he just didn't care. Su Hui clutched the strap of her school bag and walked unsteadily to Qin Yanli. Usually, at this time, he would hand her my egg, but today, there was nothing. Qin Yanli looked at Su Hui apologetically. Only then did he notice that her lips were pale and she was staggering. He realized that Su Hui had her period. 5. Sit down first and drink some of my hot water. Wait for me, I heard Qin Yanli say. Then he came to my desk, looking very nervous. Sui Yin, where's my egg? There isn't any. There won't be any in the future either, I said, looking at the book. Qin Yanli was very impatient. Sui Yin, don't be naughty. I just want my share today. As he spoke, he actually grabbed my school bag and started searching it. I was so angry that I almost exploded. I snatched the school bag back and held it in my arms. I said, there isn't any. Can't you understand? My voice was so loud that all the classmates in the class looked over. Qin Yanli awkwardly pushed his glasses. It's just an egg. Is it really necessary for you to be like this? If there isn't any, then there isn't any. An egg, I laughed. You and Su Hui, for 156 days, 2 eggs a day, you ate a total of 312 eggs of mine. I couldn't hold it in anymore and shouted, pay me back, pay me back. Qin Yanli's eyes widened. He had never expected me to treat him like this. Sui Yin, are you crazy? I grabbed his collar tightly and looked at Su Hui. You two shameless people, pay me back quickly. Suddenly, Su Hui's eyes were filled with tears. She hugged her head and lay on the table crying. The classmates began to whisper, I'd feel ashamed if I took someone else's egg for free, but she's eaten over 100 eggs and still has the nerve to cry. Sui Yin's family is already in a difficult situation, yet they still dared to take those eggs. He has a betrothal marriage but keeps thinking about someone else all day. I've long said there's something wrong with them. Lu Suiyan really has patience. If it were me, I would have exploded long ago. The whispers grew louder and louder. Su Hui suddenly stood up, her eyes filled with tears as she retorted, I never asked Lu Suiyan for her eggs. She pointed at me angrily. Ask her yourselves. Did I ever force her even once? She knew about my family situation and offered them voluntarily. Now she's going back on her word. How do you expect me and Yanli to face others? I underestimated how brazen Su Hui could be, since she dared to distort the truth like this. I simply shouted, so what if I'm going back on my word? Pay me back. Give me the money. I pushed my chair back, and Su Hui stepped back in fright. Some onlookers whistled. Ooh, the main wife and the mistress are fighting. Who's his wife? I will never marry him. I looked at that person. Qin Yanli firmly grabbed my wrist, afraid that I would rush up and attack Su Hui. Lu Suiyan, aren't you embarrassed enough? Making such a big fuss over a few eggs. You want compensation. I'll pay. He threw my arm away. It has nothing to do with Su Hui. I forced the eggs on her. She doesn't owe you anything. My brows furrowed in pain. But I stubbornly refused to show weakness. Looking straight into his eyes, a sense of sadness welled up in my heart. Once, he would stand up for me when I was wronged and take care of me anxiously when I was sick. But after Su Hui appeared, everything changed. I finally realized that he was no longer the person in my memory. Qin Yanli, I hate you. I will never marry you. 2 lines of tears fell silently, seeing me cry. Su Hui started crying even louder. Qin Yanli's expression, which had just softened, turned stern again. He withdrew his hand that was reaching out to me and curled his lips disdainfully. Fine, that's exactly what I want. Then he quickly walked over to Su Hui, squatted beside her desk, and comforted her in a soft voice. 6. The next morning, Qin Yanli slapped a few banknotes on my desk. Without looking up, I took the money and no longer pestered him all the time like I used to. Now, Qin Yanli was almost inseparable from Su Hui every day. Whether it was on the way to and from school or during breaks, however, I could occasionally catch him looking at me out of the corner of my eye. It seemed that Qin Yanli had been waiting for me to change my mind. This was an era when knowledge could change one's destiny. No matter how noisy the surroundings were, I devoted all my energy to studying. In my previous life, I never had the chance to change my life. When I was in my senior year of high school, although my grades were quite good, my father said, if a girl studies too much, she'll become too opinionated and start competing with men for power. Once you marry Yanli, won't you be arguing with him every day? In my opinion, you should quit school as soon as possible and save some money for Xiaobao. Unwilling to accept this, I went to ask Qin Yanli for his opinion. At that time, he was practicing calligraphy and didn't care about this decision that could change the course of my life. He lifted his indifferent eyes and said, "Isn't your biggest dream to be a good wife and loving mother and spend your life with me? What's the use of studying?" I didn't notice the mockery in his words. Blushing, I lowered my head and stammered in protest. I never said such a thing. My unwillingness was overshadowed by joy, so I dropped out of school in my senior year. Even my head teacher talked to me. She said I was sure to get into a good university and told me not to give up on myself. I smiled calmly and said, "Teacher, for a rural girl like me, getting through high school is already quite an achievement." After that, I stayed at home to help my parents with farm work, waiting peacefully for the day when Qin Yanli would marry me. But in the end, a flood made me a widow for him for 40 years. In those 40 years, I wasted my youth and exhausted my beauty for him. Meanwhile, he had a large family with Su Hui, enjoying the happiness of family life. Reborn. I made up my mind to go to university and have nothing more to do with Qin Yanli. I did well in all subjects except mathematics, which I often failed, so as soon as class was over, I would go to ask my head teacher for help and take copious notes. I never imagined that the notes I cherished so much would be destroyed by Su Hui. 7. One day, after having lunch at home, I rushed to school without taking a break. On the way, I met Qin Yanli. The moment our eyes met at the alley entrance, he crossed his arms and sneered, "Thought you hated me. Can't you last a few days before coming to find me?" I ignored him and quickened my pace, trying to create some distance, eager to get to the classroom and organize my notes. We walked in silence until we reached the classroom door. Qin Yanli stepped forward quickly and grabbed my arm. "Lu Suiyan, let me tell you, you can play your act, but my patience has limits. If you get jilted, don't come crying to me." I raised my head calmly and said, "I've already told my parents that I'm breaking off the engagement with you, not the other way around." Qin Yanli's pupils dilated. For the first time, I saw a startled expression on his face. Then he sneered, "Your parents are just as difficult to deal with as you are. What difference does it make if you told them?" Qin Yanli didn't believe that I had given up on him, but it didn't matter anymore. In half a year, I would be admitted to university and leave him behind completely. Let go. I struggled free and pushed the door open into the classroom. What greeted my eyes was Su Hui standing in front of the trash can. She was holding my notebook and tearing it into pieces. One by one, my blood boiled instantly. I rushed up, grabbed her braids, and threw her to the ground. My precious notebook had already become shreds, stuck in the trash can and soaked in dirty water. "Lu Suiyan, what are you doing?" Su Hui let out a scream and got up, swinging her fist at me. I kicked her down again. Doing farm work all year round had its advantages. At this moment, for example, Su Hui had no ability to fight back. "Why did you touch my notebook?" "Why?" I asked, slapping her hard. Suddenly, a powerful force came from behind. My neck was locked, and the next second, I was thrown to the side. My forehead hit the desk and chair, scraping and bleeding. Dazed, I looked up and saw Qin Yanli protecting Su Hui in his arms. The girl's crying made the boy's eyes red. "Has Lu Suiyan gone crazy? It's just a notebook. Do you have to be so brutal?" I suddenly remembered the scene when Qin Yanli stood up for me when we were kids. Back then, he was just a little taller than me in his cotton-padded jacket. He spread his arms to protect me behind him, clenched his small fists, and threatened the second-grade boy opposite in a childish voice. "Nobody is allowed to bully Suiyan, otherwise, I'll beat you up." He grew up with me as the center of his world. How could someone who once promised to grow old with me change so quickly? I bit my lip hard, and big tears fell. Only then did Qin Yanli notice the wound on my forehead. Before he could speak, Su Hui, who was lying in his arms, wailed at the top of her lungs. I didn't know it was Suiyan's notebook. I saw it on the ground and thought it was trash. I really didn't know. Perhaps Qin Yanli felt a bit guilty towards me, but I could never compare to Su Hui. He carefully examined Su Hui's wounds. When he saw the scratches on her ear, he became furious. Lu Suiyin, you're used to fetching water and carrying manure all day, you don't know how hard to hit. Can you take responsibility if she gets a scar? He punched the ground. How could someone like you be a match for me? After crying, I felt relieved. Looking at Qin Yanli's expression of frustration, I stood up, wiped away my tears vigorously, and looked at him word by word. It's you who isn't good enough for me. Qin Yanli looked up in disbelief. 8. The torn-up notes could never be retrieved. Qin Yanli and I never spoke again. When we passed each other on ordinary days, I didn't even look up, treating him like a stranger. Several times, Qin Yanli found me on the way home from school and tried to say something, but I looked straight ahead as if I didn't see him. He was so angry that he shouted behind me, "Fine, Lu Suiyin, see if you can keep this act up for the rest of your life." After learning about the notebook, my head teacher called me for a talk during the break. She patted my arm and comforted me. "Suiyin, there's a little over half a year until the college entrance examination. You must focus on your studies and don't waste time on those trivial matters." I smiled and said, "Don't worry, I won't let those awful people and things bother me." The head teacher nodded and sighed. "Back then, when you said you were dropping out of school, I tried to persuade you again and again, but you wouldn't listen. I felt so sorry that I couldn't sleep at night." "What made you change your mind?" I smiled and said, "Because I want to leave here and see a bigger world, unlike me, who was fully devoted to studying." Qin Yanli and Su Hui grew closer and closer. Whenever they had time, they would stick together, doing homework, laughing, and joking. Everyone secretly mocked me, saying that the main wife had finally been discarded, but I knew Qin Yanli too well. He deliberately got close to Su Hui while secretly observing my reaction, as if he thought that if I got provoked, I would go back to being the same as before, hovering humbly in front of him. In fact, it was unnecessary. Even if they kissed in the classroom now, my heart wouldn't stir. He no longer mattered to me at all. I really didn't want to have any contact with Qin Yanli, but things didn't go as I wished. We met again a month later, at his coming-of-age ceremony. I didn't plan to go, considering how he had hurt me in my previous life. Back then, I started preparing for Qin Yanli's coming-of-age ceremony early. After finishing farm work and homework every day, I would stay up late knitting a sweater for him. It took me 5 whole months, constantly undoing and re-knitting, before I finally finished it. At the lively banquet, the villagers jeered, saying that since both Qin Yanli and I had come of age, we should get married the next year. Looking at the handsome face of the boy opposite, I lowered my head, my ears burning. Su Hui, who was sitting below, stamped her foot in anger and ran out. Qin Yanli saw this scene. In response to the teasing, he suddenly exploded and threw the sweater I gave him onto the dining table. The soup stained the white sweater yellow, and the alcohol stove instantly set it on fire. He clenched his fists, his eyes red as he glared at me. "I hate white the most." Then he dashed out to chase after Su Hui. After that, there were all kinds of rumors about my humiliation in the village. How could I put myself through that again? Unexpectedly, my parents secretly took the sweater I made and planned to give it to Qin Yanli as a gift to show my apology. He couldn't have it. Absolutely not. I dashed out of the house. 9. I ran all the way to the largest restaurant at the village entrance. Just like in my previous life, a dozen tables were set up in a row, and the men, women, and children of the village had already started the feast. The Qin family sat at the honored seats. In the center was Qin Yanli. He looked around anxiously, but the moment he saw me, he relaxed. He poured himself a glass of wine and took a sip, and the closer I got, the wider his smile became. My father took out the white sweater from his bag and presented it to Qin Yanli, showing it off. "Look at this, everyone. The girl spent more than 5 months knitting this. Her hands are full of calluses." Chen's mother smiled widely. "Only Suiyin knows how to show consideration. I can't wait for her to become part of our family." My mother joined in the laughter. Qin Yanli and Uncle and Aunt Chen, don't take what Suiyin said these days to heart. It's normal for young couples to have some conflicts. My father quickly agreed. "That's right. I've read all of my daughter's diaries since she was a child. Every one of her wishes was to marry Yanli." Watching me approach quickly, Qin Yanli held the sweater and a disdainful smile appeared on his face. "I've never taken Suiyin's words seriously." "Oh, Suiyin, you're here. Your parents said you had a fever. I thought you weren't coming," Uncle Chen said to me. I stared at Qin Yanli and stretched out my hand. "Give me the sweater back." Qin Yanli frowned, as if he thought he had misheard. Without saying more, I reached out to grab it. My mother pulled my hand away, and Qin Yanli stepped back in shock, still holding the sweater. Sui Yin, what are you doing in front of everyone? My father pushed me aside. Once a gift is given, there's no reason to take it back. Suddenly, I became the target of everyone's criticism. This is my thing, I don't want to give it to him. Nonsense, you spent months knitting this sweater for Yanli, don't I know that? My mother said with a cold face, it's mine. Ignoring I pushed through the crowd and forcefully snatched the sweater back. Qin Yanli stood there, looking at his empty hands in a daze. My father was furious and raised his hand to hit me. I swatted his arm away and shouted in front of everyone, Mom and Dad. I don't like Qin Yanli anymore, not at all. I looked at the village chief beside me. Grandpa Zhou, be our witness, the betrothal marriage between me and Qin Yanli is off. The lively banquet fell silent all of a sudden. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a figure stand up. It was Su Hui. She looked at Qin Yanli with excitement all over her face, her expression full of joy. One moment, my mother was crying and saying I was out of my mind, and the next moment, she rolled up her sleeves and rushed forward. You shameless girl, do you think I'm deaf and haven't heard those rumors? You immoral thing. Qin Yanli and Sui Yin were in love, and it's all your fault. She cursed and went to scratch Su Hui's face. Su Hui's mother got angry and started fighting with her. Seeing this, my father stepped in to help. Su Hui cowered aside, and flying bowls and dishes hit her coat. Qin Yanli walked through the crowd step by step. Su Hui, who had been sobbing, seemed to have found a backer immediately. She glanced at me, and the fear in her eyes was replaced by arrogance, as if saying she had finally won. Yes, Qin Yanli rushed to Su Hui, in front of the whole village. Protect her tightly in your arms, let it all end. But I never expected that. Qin Yanli stopped in front of me. His eyes were red, and his hands were shaking as he held mine. Sui Yin, why don't you like me anymore? I pulled my hands away. Because you're not good enough for me. There were many laughs from the banquet. My father roared, this is ridiculous. It would be a blessing from our ancestors if Yanli married you. How could he not be good enough for you? Looking into Qin Yanli's eyes, I didn't waver. You just aren't. Qin Yanli's chest heaved violently, as if he had countless words to say. But in the end, he just let out a cold snort, laughed, gulped down a glass of white liquor, and smashed the wine glass to pieces. Fine, if you want to break off the engagement, then do it. Lu Sui Yin, I don't have to have you. He turned and left the banquet. Su Hui immediately came back to life. She stood there calling out to Qin Yanli several times, but he didn't look back. Watching his disappearing back, I felt an unprecedented sense of relief. This time, Qin Yanli and I really had nothing to do with each other anymore. I was free. 10. Unlike in the previous life, after the banquet, it was the Su family's mother and daughter who lost all face. The villagers scolded Su Hui's mother for being unruly after becoming a widow, and said that her daughter had followed suit, destroying the marriage between me and Qin Yanli. Uncle and Aunt Qin understood my feelings and tried to persuade me all night, saying that Qin Yanli had always put me first. Maybe he had been a bit distracted, but it was all Su Hui's fault. Everyone was trying to persuade me, as if my life would be over without Qin Yanli. I knew I couldn't persuade them, so I simply kept quiet. Anyway, as long as I got into university, I could leave this place. Although rumors were spreading in the village, Su Hui didn't care. Now she no longer had to avoid being seen with Qin Yanli. In the classroom, she would hug his waist tightly, act coquettishly, pinch his face, and call his name in a charming voice, announcing to everyone that Qin Yanli was her boyfriend. Qin Yanli didn't say anything, tacitly accepting it, as I had expected. This should have been a huge sensation. I thought Qin Yanli would have red ears, spin Su Hui around in his arms, take her home, and always stand in front of her when being scolded by Uncle and Aunt Chen. But Qin Yanli's reaction was very cold. What was even more surprising was that after they got together, instead of becoming more affectionate, they had more and more conflicts. In the previous life, Qin Yanli went to find Su Hui after he became successful. Money could smooth over all conflicts. In this life, they got together when they were poor, and as the saying goes, poverty makes a couple miserable in everything. Su Hui thought Uncle and Aunt Chen lacked courage, unlike the parents of her best friend, who went into business and opened several companies. She also thought Qin Yanli was unromantic. Her best friend's boyfriend was handsome and took great care of her, while Qin Yanli ignored her after getting together with her. As cold as a block of wood, as the spring festival approached, they had a big fight in class. It started when Su Hui asked Qin Yanli to accompany her to the town to buy New Year clothes. Qin Yanli thought the final exam was coming up and studying was more important, so he refused. Su Hui was so angry that she screamed in class, hit Qin Yanli with her hands, and brought up how considerate her best friend's boyfriend was. This made Qin Yanli push her against the wall in anger. If you like him so much, then go to him. Day by day, they were like characters in a TV drama, and the classmates in the class watched with great interest, gathering around and cheering and laughing. Su Hui cried on the table again, annoyed. Qin Yanli packed his school bag and left the classroom. It was the first time he skipped class. We passed each other in the corridor. He stopped, called my name in a plaintive voice. I didn't look back. When the final exam results came out, Qin Yanli, who had always ranked first in the school, performed extremely poorly and dropped to outside the top 30. I, on the other hand, ranked 10th in the school. Holding the report card, I ran home, eager to prove the fruits of my efforts to my family. But my father didn't look happy at all. Instead, he threatened me. Go apologize to Yanli and ask the Chen family to send the betrothal gifts now. Otherwise, don't expect me to pay your tuition next semester. I slapped my chopsticks on the table. I've said it countless times. I won't marry Qin Yanli. My father seemed to go crazy. He picked up a shovel from behind the door and pressed it against my neck. Just because you ranked 10th in the school, you think you're amazing. Who else would want you if you don't marry Yanli? Will you marry him or not? My mother was crying and trying to hold him back, while my younger brother ate his meal indifferently. For all these years, this was how I had lived. All the good things belonged to my younger brother, and I was like an ornament, getting beaten for no reason. The grievances and dissatisfaction that had been pent up in my heart for years suddenly exploded. I shouted, just because you're my father. Do you think I won't hold a grudge, you unfilial girl? How dare you talk to me like this? My father roared, his wide-open eyes full of disbelief. Why should I be filial to someone who treats me like dirt? Tears welled up in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I'm determined to study. I'll even sell my blood if I have to. This dispute reached the Chen family. Early the next morning, I was torn between going to the town to work during the winter vacation or borrowing money from my head teacher first. As I walked in the snow, feeling lost, suddenly someone hugged me from behind. Before I could scream, I heard Qin Yanli's voice in my ear. 11, Sui Yin, please don't sell your blood. It's very dangerous. I'm begging you. He held me tightly, his body trembling slightly, as if afraid that if he let go, I would do something stupid. After a moment of stunned silence, I broke free from his embrace. My business has nothing to do with you. I turned and walked away. Qin Yanli persistently grabbed my hand and handed me a stack of banknotes of various denominations. Sui Yin, I'll pay for your studies. Looking a bit nervous, he turned his face away. I've broken up with Su Hui. I've thought a lot during this time. Sui Yin, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Su Hui isn't worth my love. So, his voice was barely audible. So, can we go back to the way we were? When it's time to fill out the college application forms, we can apply to the same university. I'll go wherever you go, and we can get married as soon as we graduate. Why did Qin Yanli still hold on to such illusions? I shook off his hand. What if Su Hui was worth it? Qin Yanli opened his eyes wide, as if not understanding what I meant. You only realized after dating Su Hui that she didn't meet your expectations, but what if she did? If she was your first love and your confidant, quiet, perfect, and willing to give everything for you, if that were the case, would you still be standing here today? Qin Yanli, even if I sold all my blood and it was reported in the newspaper, you'd probably just open it up and read it as news. I was calm, and as I spoke, I laughed. Qin Yanli, I know you too well. You thought I was joking when I said you weren't good enough for me. Right, no, you really aren't good enough for me. When I loved you, I was willing to give you both of my 2 eggs, but for you, whether it's Su Hui or me, you'd only be willing to give one. You're selfish and don't know how to love. That's the biggest difference between us. I buried my face in my scarf and said coldly, don't come to me again. It's really disgusting. That day, Qin Yanli stood in the snow for a long, long time. In the end, Uncle and Aunt Qin came to take him home. 12. I still didn't have the courage to borrow money from my head teacher. I decided to go work during the winter vacation to save some money first. If it really didn't work out, then I'd trouble my head teacher. That night, my mother pushed open the door to my room and stuffed a small box into my arms. I'm not capable, but I'll definitely scrape together the money for you to go to school. Under the dim light, she patted my hand. Only then did I notice how rough her hands were, like sandpaper. All these years, it wasn't just me who had suffered, my mother had too. I hugged my mother tightly and suppressed my sobs as I vowed, "Mom, I will definitely get into university and make your life better." Throughout the winter vacation, I didn't relax at all. I wrote test papers, forgetting to eat and sleep. Before I knew it, school started again, and the seats in the class were rearranged. I was seated even more towards the front, and Chin Yanli was in the second row diagonally in front of me. Just 3 or 5 meters away, he looked both apologetic and pleasantly surprised, and turned his head to look at me. I glanced away without responding. Now, no one could shake my determination to get into university. Suddenly, I felt a sharp tug on my hair. Su Hui had grabbed it. "You copycat. Yanli doesn't like you at all. What do you mean by trying to seduce him now? Give up. You and I aren't even comparable. You're so rustic, even if you imitate me for a lifetime. You'll never be as good as me." When I turned my head, I saw that Su Hui was also wearing an orange-red padded jacket. She thought I was copying her. I didn't want to waste time explaining. I grabbed her arm, kicked her to the ground. Su Hui couldn't fight me. She just wanted to play the victim, squirming on the ground. "Yanli, help me. I'm so scared. I'm going to be beaten to death." Wah! With a drama at the start of the school term, the classmates were all as excited as monkeys, gathering around and shouting, but Chin Yanli rushed to me, gently smoothing my disheveled hair with a worried look. "Sui Yan, are you hurt anywhere? Don't touch me." I stepped back, hearing the commotion. Su Hui immediately got up and hugged Chin Yanli tightly from behind. "You clearly told me that a rustic girl like Lu Suiyan wasn't good enough for you. What's wrong with you now? I'm prettier and more sensible than her. We're a perfect match. Yanli, please don't break up with me." Chin Yanli's face changed drastically when his past words were exposed. He forcefully broke free from Su Hui and shouted angrily, "Sui Yan and I had a betrothal marriage. We were meant to be together. It was you who meddled. What right do you have to accuse us wrongly?" Su Hui stood there in disbelief, her eyes blurred with tears. I tied up my braid and stared at her, threatening, "If you provoke me again, I'll show you what a rustic country girl is capable of." After this incident, Su Hui indeed became much quieter, but she still pestered Chin Yanli, hoping he would change his mind, and Chin Yanli just kept refusing her. Somehow, from some point on, he only had eyes for me. 13. The college entrance examination arrived along with the sweltering summer. In my previous life, I didn't take the college entrance examination, so this time, everything was a new experience for me. But I wasn't nervous at all. I knew I had prepared thoroughly. Sure enough, after getting the test papers in the exam room, I wrote non-stop. Soon, the results were announced. I scored 636, ranking second in the school and 8th in the entire township. Surprised, my head teacher specially came to my home and told me not to worry about the tuition fees, as the village chief would arrange for donations to support me. When my father saw this, he didn't dare to speak loudly in front of me anymore. As for Chin Yanli, he was constantly pestered by Su Hui, and his performance in the exam suffered. He only scored a little over 500 points. Su Hui had never focused on studying and didn't even score 300 points. Uncle and Aunt Chin came to my home to chat, complaining that Su Hui had held Chin Yanli back. As they talked, they looked at me. Aunt Chin wiped her tears and said, "I've always said Sui Yan is the best." I smiled but didn't say anything, then left the room. On the day of filling out the college application forms, Chin Yanli stood in the corridor looking dejected. When he saw that I was also going to fill out the forms, he followed me and said in a low voice, "Sui Yan, which university do you plan to apply to?" "It's none of your business," Chin Yanli almost pleaded. "Sui Yan, please tell me, even though I can't go to the same university as you, I want to be in the same city as you." I turned to look at him. "Where do you want to go?" Chin Yanli's face lit up with surprise. "I want to go to Beijing." "Sui Yan, I see. I'm not going to Beijing." Chin Yanli stood there stunned, his eyes welling up with tears. He said reluctantly, "Sui Yan, do you hate me that much? Before, no matter what I did, you would forgive me. Now that I know I was wrong and I'll never hurt you again, why won't you forgive me this one last time?" I wanted to say, "It's not that I hate you, I just don't care anymore," but I didn't look back. For someone who was no longer important, ignoring him was enough. 14. After filling out the application forms, I stayed at home waiting for the admission notice. Suddenly, continuous heavy rain started to pour down. The date circled on the calendar was getting closer and closer. It was the day when the village was destroyed by the flood in my previous life. Our village had several heavy rains every year. In the previous life, no one took it seriously, and it was the same this time. I told my parents that the rain was too heavy and something was wrong, and we should leave immediately. They said I was too nervous waiting for the admission notice and was being overly suspicious of the annual rain. I didn't dare to delay. I went to find my head teacher in the middle of the night with an umbrella. She had always trusted me the most. With her support, we managed to persuade the village chief and contacted the staff in charge of the dam upstream. They said the water level had indeed risen more severely than in previous years, but they didn't dare to decide whether we should evacuate the village or not. I couldn't help but shout, "Uncle Joe, our entire village can't afford to take this risk. How about we mobilize everyone to leave first? Once the rain subsides, we can always come back." My words gave the village chief the determination he needed. He immediately stood up, slapping the table. "That's right, we can't afford to take the risk. I'll go door to door right now to persuade everyone." In the middle of the night, the entire village was lit up. People carried their valuables on their backs and headed towards the town on higher ground upstream. Yanli walked behind his parents. When someone saw me leading the way, they deliberately complained loudly. The village chief actually believes a little girl and is making the whole village toss in the middle of the night. In my opinion, the rain is about to stop. What's the point of running away? The young man was about to continue humiliating me when Yanli picked up a bamboo pole and hid it in front of his rubber shoes. He looked at the young man coldly. "Since the rain is about to stop, you can stay behind." Confronted like this, the other person blushed with embarrassment. Of course, he didn't dare to go back to the village and quietly turned and followed the crowd. In fact, there were quite a few people who thought the same way, and many people indeed stayed in the village, such as Su Hui and her mother. They insisted, "Our village hasn't had a flood in decades, so there won't be one this year either." No matter how the village chief tried to persuade them, they refused to leave. But when the flood came, it came quickly and no one could stop it. The next morning, the news that the village had been destroyed spread everywhere. Many people rushed to me and the village chief to express their gratitude. On the third day, after the sun came out, the water level dropped significantly. The village chief organized those who could swim to go back for disaster relief. When he saw me join the team, Yanli quickly raised his hand as well. We rode back to the village. Everywhere we looked, there were destroyed earthen houses and bungalows. Su Hui and her mother were hugging a tree, and when they saw people coming, they immediately burst into tears. "Save us, please save us." Su Hui's white nightgown had long been stained muddy yellow. There were many fallen trees where they were, and the boat couldn't get through, so someone shouted, "Sui Yin, swim over from the side and bring 2 life rings." Without thinking much, I helped Aunt Sun, who had just been rescued, onto the boat, then turned and swam towards Su Hui. I never expected that at such a critical moment, she would try to harm me. She slapped away the life ring I handed her, pretended to be weak and fell into the water. The next second, while pushing me underwater, she screamed, "Ah, I can't swim, I'm so scared." Yanli was not far away. Su Hui believed that if she was about to die, Yanli would definitely save her. I was a good swimmer, but Su Hui clung to me like a monkey. I choked on several mouthfuls of muddy water, and my consciousness gradually faded. Yanli, who witnessed everything, quickly put down the oars. He had never swum so fast nor been so panicked. Su Hui was overjoyed and kept shouting, "Yanli, save me." Suddenly, a huge flood wave surged, and both Su Hui and I were swept away. When the turbid floodwaters, carrying broken logs, crashed down on my head, Yanli stretched out his arm to block it. There was a sickening cracking sound of bones breaking. He pressed me tightly against his chest. "Hold on to me." He didn't even glance at Su Hui, who was screaming in the distance and grabbing onto a floating log. "Keep your head down." Yanli suddenly pressed me into his arms as a piece of steel rebar scraped across his back. Blood mist exploded in the turbulent waves. I heard his muffled groan, but his arm around me didn't move an inch. Yanli and I were finally washed ashore and rescued downstream. Once I recovered, I quickly checked his wounds, seeing my worried expression. Yanli, who looked pale, actually smiled brightly. He reached out and stroked my face, whispering pleadingly, "Sui Yin, can you call me Yanli one more time?" I was momentarily stunned. In the past, I couldn't bear to see him get even a little hurt, but now, his pain only seemed ironic to me. "Yanli, do you think this is atonement?" I said coldly. "I won't be moved by you, and I definitely won't get back together with you. How many times do I have to say it? It's long over between us." The light in his eyes shattered instantly. 15. After the flood receded, the village began to be rebuilt. This time, there were no casualties, and I finally felt at ease. The news that Soo-hwee had tried to harm me spread, and everyone regarded me as a savior, ostracizing the Soo family everywhere. When Uncle and Aunt Chen learned that Chin Yanli had saved me, they came to propose marriage again, hoping to use the favor of saving my life to make us reconcile. Naturally, I wasn't willing. Before I could say anything, it was Chin Yanli who stopped them. His arm was in a cast. "Mom and Dad, stop forcing Sui Yin. I'm not worthy of her now." He stole a cautious glance at me, then raised his head firmly, looking into my eyes and vowing, "But Sui Yin, please wait for me. I will work hard to catch up with you. One day, we can start over." That day, Chin Yanli left behind a piece of calligraphy, a poem that I had loved very much when I was deeply in love with him, back then. No matter how much I begged, I couldn't get his writing. Now that I no longer loved him, he actually gave it to me on his own initiative, on the thin rice paper. The ink spread out. At the spring banquet, I sing a song with each cup of green wine. I make 3 wishes. First, may my Lord live 1,000 years. Second, may I stay healthy. Third, may we be like the swallows on the beam, seeing each other year after year. But now, what was there for us to meet again for? I crumpled up the piece of paper and threw it into the trash can. 16. I finally left the village and went to a big city to start my university life. I majored in computer science, one of the most popular majors at the beginning of the new century. With the memories of my previous life, I spared no effort to seize the opportunities. During university, I sold CDs, worked as a computer technology teacher, and later opened a training class. After saving up a sum of money, I quickly took out a loan to buy a house in Beijing, fulfilling the promise I made to my mother. Money is truly a wonderful thing. After gaining financial power, my father no longer dared to criticize me, and my younger brother, who had always been cold-hearted, learned to be observant and always agreed with me. Since I started university, Chin Yanli would come to see me whenever he had time. Sometimes he would just watch from a distance, and sometimes he would come up and talk to me about his recent situation as if performing a monologue. I was annoyed and told him to get lost. One day, there was a boy by my side. He was completely different from Chin Yanli. He wasn't arrogant at all, never put on airs, and seemed willing to give me everything he had. When he saw the boy, Chin Yanli, who had always remained calm, finally lost his mind. He grabbed my shoulders and shook me violently. "Sui Yin, why didn't you wait for me? I've been working hard to be worthy of you. Why do you pretend not to see it?" I held back my anger. "What does your business have to do with me? Get lost, stop interfering in my life." Chin Yanli shook his head in disbelief. The next second, Qin Yi subdued him and pinned him to the ground. "You're the one pretending. Sui Yin hates you so much, but you keep pretending not to see it." He looked up at me to soothe me. "Sui Yin, go back to the dormitory first. I'll handle this." I nodded and quickly left. Chin Yanli shouted desperately, "Sui Yin, don't go. Please, don't leave me." After that, I was prepared for him to pester me again, but unexpectedly, for 5 consecutive months, Chin Yanli seemed to have disappeared. Later, I found out that Chin Yanli had married Soo-hwee. It was said that after causing a scene at my school that day, Qin Yi and I called the police. He was given a major demerit at school. In a bad mood, he indulged in alcohol. In a muddled state, he ended up sleeping with Soo-hwee, who had come to find him. Soo-hwee threatened that if Chin Yanli didn't marry her, she would create a fuss everywhere and that she had plenty of ways to ruin his life. So, while still in his junior year of university, Chin Yanli and Soo-hwee had a simple wedding in the village. After learning all this, I finally felt completely relieved. 17. 8 years after graduation, I went back to the village for the first time, to discuss the establishment of a girls' school there. In recent years, my computer training school had been doing well, and I had already opened 3 branch schools. Having come from a mountain village, I couldn't forget the looks in the eyes of girls who, like me, longed for knowledge. After earning my second pot of gold, I shared my idea of building a girls' school, and Qin Yi strongly supported me, accompanying me back to the village. One spring day, we were walking through the fields with town and village officials, checking the potential locations for the school. Suddenly, a shrill curse stopped everyone in their tracks. "Damn it, all you do is drink all day long. Why don't you just drink yourself to death?" Soo-hwee, holding a baby in her arms, kicked someone out of the house. The person, with disheveled hair, looked like a homeless person. After rolling on the ground twice, he simply sat there and took big gulps of wine. Suddenly, he froze, and our eyes met. The cinnabar mole that had once been so dazzling under his messy hair had long faded. Chen Yanli stood up tremblingly and walked towards me step by step. Sui Yin, did you come to see me? The people around quickly surrounded me protectively. The village chief cursed. Go home right now and stop scaring people. Chen Yanli seemed to come to his senses. The wine bottle shattered on the ground. Looking at his rough hands, he desperately pulled at his hair, apologizing like a madman. Sorry. I had heard about his situation. After marrying Su Hui, he had been depressed and developed a drinking problem. He had become a good for nothing, staying at home all day. Su Hui, who had used all means to marry him, now deeply regretted it. At this moment, Su Hui rushed out when she heard the commotion. When she saw me, her face changed instantly. Then she spat on the ground. What the hell are you looking at? Want to rekindle an old flame? Here you go. Take this piece of trash away right now. Don't you dare curse at Sui Yin. Chen Yanli jumped up and started fighting with Su Hui. It's all your fault. You've ruined me. The immortal love from my previous life had now become so pathetic. Halfway through the construction of the girls' school, Su Hui left the village with her child. Shortly after, Chen Yanli disappeared as well. Maybe he changed his name and started over in a distant place again, but I no longer cared. 18. On the day the girls' school was completed, I went back to the village again. The 6-story teaching building stood at the entrance of the village, with white walls and red tiles, looking like a crane spreading its wings. A little girl with pigtails ran over, tugging at the hem of my clothes. Principal, can I be as amazing as you in the future? I squatted down and wiped the mud off her face. Of course you can. As long as you study hard, you'll be even more amazing than me in the future. These chattering little girls, some of them used to herd cows in the fields, some used to tend the stove, and some were even on the verge of being married off for bride price by their families. But now, they sat in bright classrooms, holding textbooks in their hands, their eyes shining with hope. As the sun set, the teaching building was bathed in the gentle glow of the setting sun. An airplane soared through the blue sky, leaving a white trail of vapor. Looking at the smiling faces in front of me, I couldn't help but smile too. Fly, Girls, Story 2. In the year he turned 80, Xinjili passed away, having shared a life closely intertwined with mine for over 50 years. He told me he was infertile, but I only sought a soulful companionship. It turned out, however, he had preserved his chastity for another woman his entire life. 01. In the final chapter of my life, I wrote what would be my last collection of essays, titled The Two of Us. It recounted the story of how we met, came to know each other, fell in love, and my reflections at the end of our journey together. Then Xinjili's diary went viral online. I sat in my wheelchair, bombarded by the relentless flashes of camera lights. Reporters swarmed me, eager to hear my thoughts on Xinjili's posthumous writings. The diary revealed his decades-long secret love for Meng Wan, and his mythic devotion to her. Thus, my book, The Two of Us, turned into a colossal joke. A review on a certain website read, "The fantasies of a pitiful woman, unloved all her life." Xin Yao, pushing my wheelchair, finally navigated us out of the crowd. When everyone had dispersed, she looked at me in silence, her eyes filled with pity and guilt. Xin Yao was Meng Wan's child. When Meng Wan's husband died and her career was on the rise, Xinjili and I ended up adopting her. I raised her as my own. As a child, she was often sick, crying incessantly, and I would hold her all night long, pouring all my love into her. After a long silence, she spoke with an apologetic tone. "Meng Auntie wants to settle back in the country and wishes to be buried with Dad after her death," she added. "Dad had a tough life. Let's offer him some solace in death." I didn't respond, just stared at her intently, as if seeing the young woman before me for the first time. Xin Yao avoided my gaze, and before leaving, she just said, "Mom, think it over." After Xin Yao left, Xiao Wang, who looked after me, indignantly remarked, "Don't listen to her. You and your husband were together for over 50 years, and now in death, you are to be separated. Where's the justice in that? An ungrateful wretch." See, even strangers understand, but Xin Yao, whom I raised as my own flesh and blood, does not. 02. Meng Wan did return to the country, and her homecoming as a newly crowned movie star drew significant attention. Her journey was broadcast live, and I saw her weeping profusely at Xinjili's grave. The headlines described their story as a love across centuries, and many wept for their beautiful love story, and I ended up the ultimate punchline. Mengwan came to me, knelt down to thank me for caring for Xinyao, and pleaded for my consent for her to be buried with Xinjili, Yangqing, Zhili, and I missed out on too much time together. If there is an afterlife, I don't want to miss out on him again. I said nothing, just looked up at Xinyao. Do you agree? She nodded slightly. Then quickly added, Mom, you will always be my mom, it's just that now I have another mom. Xinyao was always good at weighing pros and cons. Having a movie star as a mother was undoubtedly a boost to her acting career that I couldn't match. I understood her, and her decision didn't surprise me. I was just tired, and said wearily, I agree, let them be buried together, let her acknowledge her roots. I agree, I'm tired now. Xiao Wang, please show the guests out. After everyone had left and silence settled, I began to reflect on my life. As one ages, memory fades, and my mind is filled with fragments of the past. I remembered when Xinjili named Xinyao. I asked him the meaning of her name, and he smiled and replied, life's journey is long. I hope she can always strive to move forward. It turns out that Xinyao represents a distant love, the woman who always captivated his heart from a foreign land. I remember before we got married, he told me with guilt on his face that he was infertile and it would be okay if I didn't want to proceed. He must have known how much I wanted my own child, yet he deceived me for so many years. I never doubted that Xinjili loved me, I just thought he was naturally reticent. The friendship of gentlemen is as mild as water, it is its mildness that makes it enduring. That's why we've been together for so many years. However, the outpouring of love in his will revealed that he wasn't bad at expressing himself. It was just that his love wasn't meant for me. I think I should hate him, but as one grows old, even hatred becomes hard to muster. All I feel is a bit of sadness, slowly rising from the depths of my heart, gradually spreading throughout my body. What I've sought all my life is the truth. In the preface to my prose, I wrote, I'd rather have clear black than a white seen through mist. Yet it turns out my whole life has been a grand lie. If I could do it all over again, this thought is so strong, like a drowning person grasping for a lifeline. Upon awakening, I found myself back to the time when Xinjili and I had been married for a year. Xinjili had been shooting back-to-back for several weeks, and now he was so exhausted that he fell asleep on the couch. At that time, he wasn't yet the globally renowned director he would become years later, just a budding young director. He was involved in everything concerning the set and the actors. I knew he was struggling, so even though he forgot our anniversary, I never blamed him. Only when it was almost dark did Xinjili wake up, looking very tired. The first thing he said was, Yangqing, you shouldn't go to the audition for The Distance. Mengwan just lost her husband and is raising a child alone. This film is very important for her. The Distance is a film directed by Xinjili. After its release, it won numerous national awards and made Mengwan the youngest Best Actress at the Golden Horse Awards. From then on, she received constant invitations from top directors, and her acting career soared. This was the first step Xinjili laid on Mengwan's glittering path to stardom, but he knew very well how much I had invested in this film. Mengwan was the sister his family had adopted. He often said that family should consider each other's needs, so I kept giving in, but this time, I didn't want to step back anymore. I stopped what I was doing and said lightly, this film is also very important to me. He frowned, surprised and somewhat displeased. Yangqing, you have me. There will be plenty of other opportunities, but it's different for Mengwan. I rolled up my sleeves to reveal the bruises on my arms. I've been practicing dance at the martial arts studio come rain or shine for 6 months for this role. Xinjili, what makes you think I should give up? He paused, momentarily surprised, then softened his tone and embraced me. Qing, I know you feel wronged, but Mengwan is not just anyone. Whether she is just anyone or not, she is the person you've cherished for decades. I let my sleeves fall and said lightly, I want a fair competition with her. Don't you have confidence in her? That night, Xinjili and I parted on bad terms. Every day, I immersed myself in the martial arts studio, engrossed in the characters' emotions. The Distance was a pioneering work in its time, narrating the history of women's growth, later becoming one of the pioneering films in cinematic history. The only flaw was the lackluster martial arts scenes. I loved this film, and if possible, I hoped to make it even more perfect. However, I never expected Xinjili to stoop so low for Mengwan. The night before the audition, he put sleeping pills in the water and turned off the alarm. Just like that, I missed the audition for Distant. Without my competition, Meng Wanru, just like in her previous life, successfully clinched the role of the female lead. He loved her in such a way that even a person of bright and clear character would stoop to such despicable actions for her. It was quite late when Shinjili finally returned home. I looked up at him, my gaze indifferent, not uttering a word, just quietly observing him. This is the man I have loved for decades. The man I have devoted myself to wholeheartedly. There was no hysteria. No uncontrollable anger, only a lingering chill. Shinjili avoided my gaze, pursed his lips, his tone apologetic. Ching, you will be the female lead in my next film. You've been wrong this time. Whatever you want, I will make it up to you. What could possibly make up for it? Could it make up for the decades of mutual respect? For a lifetime of integrity? Yet, I continued to look at him, neither sad nor happy. He stepped forward, attempting to embrace me, but I simply stepped aside and said calmly, I understand. I lay in bed, staring at the pristine white ceiling, filled with resentment. In my previous life, after missing out on that movie, I adopted Xinyao, and thus gave up a part of my career. When Xinyao grew older, I only took on supporting roles. And the highest award I ever received was for Best Supporting Actress. My gaze gradually hardened. I would not give up. The next day, I went to find Wei Qingshan. He was Shinjili's producer, known as the Golden Duo. With him in my previous life, without either of them, the movie couldn't succeed. More importantly, he was the young master of the Wei family, the major investor in the film. The man in front of me leisurely sipped his coffee. Mrs. Shen, you should not be looking for me. There was a playful look in his eyes, but his tone was unmistakable. A person who does not respect time does not deserve another chance. I lowered my head, and when I looked up again, my expression had changed, my voice grave. I possess a pearl long locked in dust, now cleansed of grime. It shines, illuminating the green mountains. This was a line from the movie, a poem read by the female lead Chu Jinyan after a lifetime of hardships. Now I am her, and she is me. Armed with decades of experience, I understand this sentiment of having weathered many storms. I gently skimmed the froth off the tea, and said leisurely, Producer Wei, a true pearl is worth waiting for. Wei Qingshan's expression slowly turned serious, then he smiled. Mrs. Shen is much more interesting than the wooden Mr. Shen. He gave me another chance, and after seeing my martial arts demonstration, he sighed. What a waste to have created Liang when you was born, Yang Qing. This role is meant for you. A month before the movie was set to start filming, Meng Wanru visited with her child. Her purpose this time was to ask me to temporarily take care of her child. Also, because of the care I had provided over the last 6 months, I had grown very fond of Xinyao, and the subsequent adoption followed naturally. Shinjili was cooking in the kitchen, a rare occurrence, only happening when Mengyao visited, because Mengyao appreciated Shinjili's cooking. He was willing to prepare meals for her. Such a grand love. I tried hard to control my face, ensuring it didn't betray a mocking smile, and just watched expressionlessly. Mengyao had a classically beautiful face, and dressed in black during her mourning period, with a white silk flower pinned to her hair and a pale complexion. Her slightly drooping eyebrows evoked a sense of pity in me. She looked at me timidly, the child in her arms crying incessantly. Mengwan had never taken care of a child before. She was all flustered and didn't know what to do. I knew it was because she was holding the child in the wrong position, pressing on the baby's stomach, which was why he was crying. Yet, I just watched coldly from the couch without moving. It was Shinjili who finally took a moment to come out of the kitchen and tenderly took the baby into his arms. In our past life, Shinjili had doted on her like a precious gem. Everyone said they had never seen such a devoted father to his daughter. Sometimes I thought, he loves other people's children so much, what if we had our own? But now, thinking about it just feels ironic. His affection for her was simply because she bore a slight resemblance to the person he loved. During the meal, Mengyao kept glancing at me, her face showing difficulty. She was too embarrassed to speak, and Shinjili, feeling sorry for her, took the initiative. Qing, Mengyao has to go film, and she can't find anyone suitable. Could you take care of Zhozhou for a few days? I slowly swallowed the food in my mouth, took a sip of wine, and said lightly, I'm not available. Shinjili frowned slightly, impatiently saying, Qing, we're all family, don't be petty. He always took it for granted, as if I shouldn't have my own things to do. You assume I'm being petty without even asking if I'm busy with something. I looked up at him. He paused, his expression turning ugly. So, what are you busy with? I slowly wiped my mouth and stood up from the table. When the time comes, you'll know. I'm full now. I won't keep you from catching up. I couldn't help but look forward to seeing their expressions on the day of the filming. Ultimately, Shinjili managed to settle everything for Mengyao, allowing her to focus solely on her role. The day of the filming began on a rainy day. The scenes of far away starting just like this wet day, gloomy as if the sun would never shine again. Shinjili had taken the family car, although he wasn't late. When he arrived, everyone was already there. During the opening ceremony, amidst the noisy crowd, everyone was puzzled as to why the ceremony wasn't starting even though everyone was present. As the black umbrella was lowered, I looked directly into Shinjili's eyes. He walked forward with a frown, somewhat impatiently. Ching. Why are you here? I'm too busy for you today. I brushed off his hand and headed straight towards Wei Qingshan. A flash of admiration crossed the man's eyes. Today's black attire was the classic look of the female lead, and he seemed very pleased. I slightly curled my lips, and Wei Qingshan clapped his hands, immediately silencing the venue. Our leading lady has arrived. Mengwan suddenly looked up at me, disbelief in her eyes. Shinjili's brows knitted tightly as he scoffed. Qingshan, I know you like to joke, but today is not the time. Wei Qingshan's smile faded, his expression serious. I'm not joking. At this point, Shinjili seemed to realize that nothing could be changed, and through gritted teeth, he murmured, Mengwan was our mutual choice for the lead. There's no precedent for changing the lead actress suddenly. Wei Qingshan's face turned stern, his tone cooling. Yang Qing is your wife. I can't believe you didn't realize she was the more suitable choice. He stepped forward, patting Shinjili on the shoulder. Shinjili, for a director, art should be the only pursuit, not swayed by these useless emotions. Mengyao left the opening ceremony in tears, passing by me. He glared at me fiercely. Originally, Shinjili wanted to chase after her, but the opening ceremony's cannon fired just in time, and he ultimately stopped in his tracks. In the group photo, he stood solemnly in the center while I stood by his side, laughing flamboyantly. My era was about to begin. When the film officially started, the original second female lead suddenly fell ill and gave up on the shoot, and Mengwan took over her role. It must be said that Shinjili really went out of his way for her. Unfortunately, the first scene was a confrontation between me and Mengwan. The female lead and the second female lead grew up together, and in this scene, the female lead finally learns that the traitor is the second female lead. I stepped forward trembling, looking down at her from a high position. My voice choked several times. Are you telling me it wasn't you? I had no choice, she replied. I continued to advance, my gaze filled with sadness and pain, and then gradually firmed up. A crisp slap, a swift sword flip, pressing against her throat. At this moment, the female lead truly wanted to kill her, to avenge her deceased brother. Thus, my eyes were reddened, filled with murderous intent. Mengwan failed to catch on to the flow of the scene, completely freezing in place.